Hello, everyone. Hello, good evening. I know it's pretty late. Well, it's not that late, but it's pretty late, and I know Monday is a work day tomorrow. Some may be off because of Martin Luther King Day, but some of us are still working. Good evening. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being patient with me. I know I'm running late because I've said before I'm a psych nurse. And oftentimes we get mandated at my job to stay over. So unfortunately, that was the case tonight, but I'm back in effect. Behind schedule, but I'm back in effect. I want to do my part two, like I stated I was going to do in my last live video in reference to the Angry Man versus the Destiny versus the guy Destiny debate. Actually, it really wasn't that much of a debate because Angry Man, it was more like an intellectual versus a preschooler. Because Angry Man was totally unprepared for somebody of this of Destiny's intellect in regards to the subject matter. Angry Man could not. He should not even have been. Should not have even been having a conversation with Destiny. He should have just left his conversations with the men in his algorithm, which are a lot of misinformed, underdeveloped, cognitively delayed males that go to his channel because they have mommy and daddy issues and nobody wants them. So that's really where Angry Man should have left his conversation. But he decided that he was going to get enraged and go and have a debate with someone. And I believe it was just for clout. I believe that he was having this debate just to grow his channel because I've noticed since having this debate, he's garnished many thousands of followers. So I really want to get to it because it's late. This is my part two to Angry Man versus Destiny, intellect versus infantile. Um, Here we go. Let's get started. Everyone, please hit the like button before we get started. Make sure that you're hitting the like button, that you're showing the channel some love. It brings people to the channel. It helps the channel get in the algorithm. So please, if you don't mind, do me a favor and hit the like button before we get started. Please and thank you. And if you are not subscribed already, make sure that you do. Make sure that you do hit the like button. I mean, hit the subscribe button and make sure that you hit the all so that you are getting all of the notifications when I go live or when I upload a video. Thank you very much. Hello, Miss Jess Ash Char. Hi, how are you doing? Thank you so much for watching 8 likes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And you got questions, huh? Well, make sure that if you have questions, put them down in the comment section because I love to answer questions. So let's get started. Ladies, and if it's gentlemen in here, let's all get started. If you didn't watch the debate, the video that I did on the debate part one, make sure that you go back and watch that. This is part two, so it will be already started in their debate, like an hour into their debate. So let's get started. Let me share my channel, and again, please make sure you hit the like button and make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Thanks. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And then we will definitely get started because this is like literally watching this debate is so like it was so now I won't say that it was eye-opening because of most of the stuff that he said is just regurgitated information that is spread upon the Black manosphere. A bunch of lack of accountability over and over again, and a bunch of nuances that I think that they just want people to believe the lies that they are telling, and they have to have somebody believe it. So they just feel like if they just keep saying the same things, that at some point somebody will see them as some victims. And at this point, people are tired of them being victims. People are tired of the 400-year marathon of victimhood, and they want these men to be men. It's not just, I think, before people were ignoring it because it wasn't in their communities, but now that these men are all over the internet, they are actually highlighting their dereliction, and I don't think that they honestly understand that. But unfortunately they are. So let's get it started. Again, this is, let me see, 1 hour and 38 minutes into a 2 hour and 58-minute debate. I'm not going to play all of the rest of it because some of it is pretty much irrelevant to me, and I have things to add to it. So you're going to get the debate and you're going to get my reaction to it. And if you ladies or gentlemen have any questions or anything to add, please feel free to do so. Let's get going.
One time.
Well, but that, what does that show? I mean, like, if you genuinely need the assistance, of course you're going to cry about it, right?
But no, it's not. It's some that genuinely need the assistance, but it's a lot that continue to live on it. These are people.
I'm sorry. Let me give a recap. So, Destiny, the guy in the blue hair, is of course, he's not the Black Manosphere. Destiny is just a larger YouTuber. And then the guy with the New York cap and the polo hoodie and the Cuban link chain is the Angryman. He calls himself part of the Black Manosphere. He wants to spread rhetoric that Black men are being oppressed and being held down because of Black women and the white male system. So that's pretty much what the Black Manosphere is about. A lot of victimhood, really no solutions other than to grab your passports and go. And then the guy in the blue, like I said, the guy with the blue hair is he considers himself a liberal. He's an openly bisexual male, but he is married to a woman. And they are debating on, it was supposed to be debating on the manosphere, but of course the Black guy and the angry man turned it into a drag race on Black women, throwing Black women under the bus. So at this point in the conversation, they are talking about Black women being thrown off of Section 8, which is a conversation that the angry man brought up as to why he believes Black women are not that Black women are not capable of raising children well, and that they're doing a bad job of being the so-called backbone of the community. So that's where we left off at. So let's get started. Make sure you're hitting the like button. Thank you.
People that live on the system the majority of their life. They're not using it in the sense that they're supposed to use it for, where, oh, I'm down bad, I have some issues, let me use this so that I can get on my feet. They're not doing that. What they're doing is they're looking and finding loopholes to continue to be on that system perpetually. That's the problem. That's the problem.
I mean, if you have a kid, you're going to be on the system. If you're a single mom, of course you will be, right? You're not going to try to like get out of like Section 8 housing or assistance for your child if you're a single mom and your kid turns like 3 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't see that like I don't see like single moms looking for assistance from the government as like a negative thing.
Here's the thing. Hold on one second. I got my guy Patriarchy here. I'm gonna bring him up. I didn't just want to bring him up and have you feel like I'm ambushing you or whatever, but yeah, I know he wanted to get a piece of the conversation.
So at this point, he brings this person up called the patriarchy. I don't know how how at this point these men feel like they are part of a patriarchy when they swear up and down that Black women are that they're stuck in a matriarchy within the Black community. But you know, if it makes him feel good, he says his name is the patriarchy. He may be a Black male, he may be biracial, that identifies as a Black. I don't know, but he brings him in, and I believe it's because he understood that he was severely losing at this debate, and that he didn't have the intellect to go against Destiny. So he probably thought that two brains were better than one, but when both of their IQs is about 40 and the other one is about 120, it's probably not. Okay, let's get going.
Patriarchy. What's going
What's
on,
going
bro?
on, man? Let me ask you a question, right? Destiny, you said you can't blame, I guess, the failures on the black community on black women. Is that what you said? Can you refresh that for me?
Yeah, I don't think you can't like blame all the failures of the black community on black women. I don't think that's fair.
What about blaming the majority?
I don't think that's fair either, especially when it comes to child making, because it takes two to tango. It's men and women.
Correct, right? But the thing is, if you're telling me that in certain parts of the world, as you said, they outnumber men 3-1, why would you not then at least, I'm not saying blaming is going to do anything, but why would you not say that there's some responsibility for what it is that they're doing? Also, the fact
because
that
the question, wait, let me just answer that. Because the question is, why do they outnumber men 3-1? It's because a lot of the guys are getting locked up.
Okay, and I think that that is the man's fault as well, right?
Sure.
But in general, even outside of the men that are being locked up, there's 1 million more black women than there are black men, right? And in your earlier statements, you said that they were the backbone of the community. If you have a backbone of a community and the community is failing, then I think you have some ability to place responsibility on what you said that backbone was.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, they're not the backbone because women want to be the leaders of the black community. But that's essentially what's happening in a lot of these communities.
Tell that to the squad that women don't want to be the leaders of the black community. It looks, as you said before, they're doing better in school. They're certainly making all the steps to become those leaders.
They do, because they have to, because black men have failed them.
Okay.
I disagree.
Because black men are looking back to legislation from 30 years ago saying Biden put drugs in my car, I had to carry a gun. Like, all of these communities that are being policed have just, well, like we said earlier, there's more black women than black men in these communities. Black women aren't selling drugs. Black women aren't killing each other on the streets. Black women aren't, getting fucked with drugs like Biden did.
Well,
so to say that like black women are the fault because they're the backbones of these communities that are really rough to manage because black men have like fallen on themselves so much. I just think it's fair to say that like, well, the problem is black women because they have to step up to try to manage these communities.
But it's, as you said before, it takes two to tango. So
I want to add that because these men first of all, because this misinformation that there's 3-1 black women there. I mean, when it comes to black men and black women, that is 3-1 or 4-1 or 5-1. It is 1.8 black women to each black man, and that is technically. Let me hide this for a minute because I want to share something else on my screen. Because they gotta stop this. I'm gonna show the actual demographics. Thank you so much. I've been just talking. Thank you so much. So here is the actual data on the population of black males. Thank you so much, Just Ask Sure. I'm just talking. Here is the data on the black male population in the United States. Between the age of 0 to 18, 51% of the black population is male. There are more black male children born per year than there are black female children. People don't realize that. And I need that to get out there because these men will make you believe that you got 18-year-old girls that think that they that they outnumber men 3-1. And sometimes I've heard even up to 8-1. When it is not true. Up until the age of 34, you see 18 to 34, black men are still 50% of the population in the black community. It is after that they start decreasing, and that is because it says right up under there, it's very small, so I'll read it. Compared to all males in America, black males are on average younger. I'll skip through that. The percent of population who are males declines much quicker for black males as they get older due to higher mortality rates than males on average. Black males are dying via being made unalive and health issues and suicide. I'm sorry, can't say that either. But they are being made unalive at a quicker rate than other males of other races. So that is the reason why their population declines. It's not because of abortions. It's not because of jail, because you're still alive if you're in jail. But I just want people to know that there are just as many men as there is women up until the age of 35, and then it starts to decrease. So, and then it really doesn't start to decrease until like age 50. So all of the ladies that are 50 and under, there are still almost just as many males out there as it is females. And it's not a 3-1, a 5-1, a 10-1. It may be 3-1 or 5-1 or 10-1 of the men who actually work compared to the women. But as far as how many men are out there, there is not a overpopulation of women versus males. And that lie needs to stop. Now, let's get back to the video. Let's get back to this video. Here we go. Let's start.
So if you're gonna, why don't you share responsibility in that blame? I don't disagree with you, right? I personally think Biden's crime bill was very effective in terms of lowering crime. But what I'm saying is that if I go to a community and you make up the majority voter base, right? Also, another reason why I think that the blame should be at least somewhat at somebody's feet is because who's consuming most of that welfare spending?
Yeah, well, it would make sense if black women are, because black men run from their families, right?
No, that is.
Also, real quick, when you say, I just want to be really quick. Wait, you can answer that, and I just want to be really quick. I'm not going to say black women are blameless. I'm just saying the responsibility should be shared. It's probably a 50-50 thing, because for every black man that stepped on a black woman after getting her pregnant, there's a black woman that fucked a black dude before getting married or deciding to use birth control, right? So I think there's equal blame there, but I wouldn't say that it's like most of it goes on black women. I said, well,
here's the thing. No, because you said something. We gotta clear that up. Black men do not run from their families. That is a total misnomer, and that is that is something that has been pushed for a very long time, and it is not accurate. As I stated before, when you go back to the 70s, you start to see black men leaving the households for numerous reasons. It wasn't just because they just decided, oh, you know what, I don't want to be a father. That's not true. They actually came out with a study, and the CDC numbers disprove that.
I'm gonna pause it for a second. Just ask Char, you said if he blames them, will his life be better? If who blames who? Clarify that for me. And then I want to get back to what he was saying. This data shows, regardless of whether they want to say that they are stepping out from their families, running away from their families, scooting away, skipping away, riding their bikes away, whatever. The data shows, and they themselves will say that the children are being born 70% in a single family, a single mother household. Now, that doesn't mean that eventually those mothers aren't marrying the fathers. Black children are being born in single mother households, but they are being raised at a 52% rate, or I have to get it's 52% of them are being raised in a single parent household. So eventually, at some point, either the mother gets married or to their father or to somebody else's, or to another man. But the notion, he's going to bring up this CDC study that Black men are so involved. And the thing is that you can only be involved more if you are not working. These men are sitting at home. They have the largest unemployment rate at sometimes 30% in certain cities. They're not going to school. So yeah, if you have nothing else to do, I would assume that you are changing diapers and that you are at the park with the kids, or you are playing a video game with them, because that's what you're doing all day long, whereas other men are at work. So saying that CDC says that you're spending more time with your children, um, we would have to dig deeper into that and figure out how you're spending more time with your children if you were actually at work as much as the other men were. So yeah.
So let's stop it.
Wait, CDC never disproved what? The Black household having single moms is not like a myth.
No, I didn't say that. What I'm talking about is nowadays Black fathers are actually in their children's lives more than any other demographic, even if they're not in the household. So if we're talking about,
come on, that's not true.
Go look it up.
I have looked it up.
CDC.
I know exactly
CDC,
the fucking
look it up.
Yeah. What they do is they do a whole bunch of like really clever number games to basically try to say that I remember reading this thing, the truth about Black fatherhood, and then it goes to stereotypes of Black fathers.
Exactly. That's what Shar says, if the women are on assistance for a long time, that means those fathers were not around. So how are they more involved? Because these men have very low comprehension skills, and they anybody can say something. I think they like what you call talking points. So they will say anything that sounds good without having any type of without reading on it, without studying it, without actually getting data or stats to back anything that they're saying. As long as it sounds good and it doesn't hold them accountable, they're going to say it. So how are you so involved but you're not there? Just as Shar says, I was saying, if Destiny blamed the women, will make the Patriot guy life better. I think that's what they want. These men, they know that they have a very poor reputation as men in general, and they want desperately to be respected by other men. So the first thing, of course, another race of man is going to say, well, hey, your communities look like Trump said back in the day not back in the day, but a couple years ago when everybody was mad at him, when Trump said Haiti was a shithole country and everybody was mad and called him a racist. But the thing is, if other races of men see that your communities look like crap and your women and children aren't taken care of, they're not going to respect you. So in order to try to garnish respect from other races of men, particularly white men, these men they have to come up with a reason as to why their neighborhoods and their communities look like crap, and why they're so violent at times, and why they are lagging behind every other race of men, with the exception of the Latinos, who also have a huge problem in their community as well. Let's get started. Let's keep going.
What they try to say is that, like, of the fathers that are absent in their child's lives, Black fathers tend to be more involved than the other people that are uninvolved in their children's lives. But as a whole, for like whose fathers are more involved in their children's lives, the Black community is the worst. Now, of the ones that are uninvolved, maybe the uninvolved, or maybe the Black fathers that are out of the household are a bit better than like the white and the Asian and Indian Black, or the Indian fathers that are out of the household. But as a whole, wait, hold on.
Destiny.
You can't tell me that like it's so. Wait. Let me just finish real quick. You can't tell me in one breath that I look around and I see all women are having children because I've got two friends that told me this for welfare, and then in the next breath say, well, I'm going to cite this like very esoteric analysis to prove that Black men are just as involved with their children as everybody else, when everybody in the United States knows that.
Yes, I can, because look, okay, first of all, what everybody in the United States knows is true. is a whole other story, especially considering the fact that you have an entire media system that has spent the past 70 years dogging black men, which is another reason why we're talking so much shit nowadays. This is the whole reason that channels like mine exist, to speak truth to power and tell what's really going on, as opposed to the narrative that's being pushed that black men are just sorry. First and foremost, it doesn't matter how many women are on welfare. It does not mean that the fathers are not in their lives. I was in my child's life, and my kid's mother still went and got welfare. So that's not true.
Well, do you know why she went and got welfare? Because the money that she had and the money that you were providing her and the children was not sufficient enough to pay for her, and I mean for the children. And that is the reason why she got on welfare. We're gonna watch something real quick, because I'm sick of these men saying that there's been this horrible narrative pushed about them for so many years, because everybody just wants to see them down and nobody wants to. I'm gonna stop sharing this, and because I'm gonna share something else. That there's this horrible narrative that's just been pushed about black men, and the black men are such wonderful fathers, and everybody is just where is that at? And everybody is just being cruel, and everybody is making up lies on them, because it just isn't true. I'm going to go to something. See, because this didn't just start. And a lot of them like to say that this stuff started. Let me make sure I'm not muted. Everybody can hear me? Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. A lot of these men like to make sure, a lot of these men like to make up lies and act like this type of stuff started in the 80s with, the booming welfare mothers, and that everything was so great in the 50s and the 60s and part of the 70s. But we're gonna roll it back a little bit, and I want to show you guys something. So give me a second. And we're gonna show all these wonderful dads. We're gonna show these wonderful dads, and we're gonna go back to the 1969. We're gonna go back to 1960.
Gates.
Okay, let me share my screen. This is 1969. Thank you, Sav Productions. This is 1969, because the 1960s, that the families were still mostly intact. Marriage rate was still, children were still being born at a 65% rate with a married intact family, supposedly. But people people that are our age, that the Gen X's and the millennials and the Gen Z's, they like to talk about stuff that happened before we were born. But we need to hear it from the actual people that were there. If anyone is ruining the black man's image, is the black. Absolutely. Valentine said, if anyone is ruining black man's image, is the black man himself. Absolutely. I just don't understand how they don't realize the image that themselves are putting out. But I know that they will defend that by saying that they were all raised by single mothers, and that is the reason why they are emotionally disturbed, sexual deviants, and that they they lack impulse control, because they say they have been effeminized by the black women. So we're going to go back to the actual 1960s, because these men keep saying that, that everything was great prior to the 1980s when welfare destroyed the black family. So I'm going to show something right quick. This is the 1960s. This is 1969 Special Report Welfare Crisis.
And Sumner Avenues intersect in the heart of a Brooklyn slum. Mrs. Ruthie Williamson lives at 652 Gates Avenue in a 5-room city-owned apartment on the 2nd floor. The apartment rents for $68 a month. She pays the rent and provides for herself and 6 children on a regular welfare allotment of $200 semi-monthly. She also receives $700 a year in special grants for clothing and household furnishings. Mrs. Williamson came to New York from North Carolina 25 years ago. She's been on welfare 8 years. Her husband left her 9 years ago, and she does not know where he is.
Did y'all hear that? She's been on welfare for only 8 years. This is 1968. 69, I'm sorry. So she got on welfare in 1961. Her husband left her 9 years ago. So her husband left 1960. I'm assuming her husband was born in the 1940s, if not the 1930s. So this was supposed to be the time where the men were so great, and that life was so wonderful in the Black family, and that the women and that the kids were going to be raised so they were going to be so they were going to grow up to be doctors and lawyers and engineers, because they was raised in a two-parent household, supposedly because these women were married. This is what you call a single married mother, a married single woman. Like I said, this is 1969. Her husband left her 9 years ago, and she says she doesn't know where he's at. I'm gonna rewind it one more time so you can, just a little bit, so you can.
8 years. Her husband left her 9 years ago, and she does not know where he is. She carries on the best she can.
I have 5 boys, and they really tears up their clothes. I can't tell them not to play. They go outside, they climb, they play football, and they play basketball, and they end up busting up the shoes, busting up the pants.
I'm sorry. This is fair use. Fair use. This is fair use. Just so that I'll put that out there. This is fair use.
Every time I look around, they got a busted pair of pants, and I don't have a sewing machine, so I can't sew them up. I sew the best I can on my hand, but it still doesn't look good enough for them to go to school. Bernard likes to do anything he see anybody else do. Football, wrestling, everything else he see the big children do, he likes to do it too. He has a car everywhere he goes. He has a car. I had some smaller cars, but I had them in my pocket yesterday and I lost them. That's why I didn't get that large one.
This woman is living in a 5-room house. I don't get it confusing as 5 bedrooms. It's 5 rooms, meaning the kitchen is 1 room, the living room is 1 room, and the bathroom is 1 room. Those are 3 rooms. And so I'm assuming it's 2 bedrooms, 1 for her and 1 for the 6 children, 5 which are boys and 1 which is a girl. This woman's husband left her 9 years ago. She says she has not heard from him. These are the spectacular men, and this is 1969. These are the spectacular men that they said that these, since they were intact married families, that the children were going to be in such a better state and have such better results as adults because they were in a marriage. What they were in, a lot of them were married single mothers. Now I'm gonna go back and share. I'm gonna go back and share my. Sorry. Go back and share the Angry Man. Okay.
I do think that when you're talking about fathers running out, right? I do think that you're not really taking note of the court system, and they really don't have a choice when 90% of custody is going to be awarded to
the fathers was running out since the 1950s, 40s, 30s, 20s. They've been running since they left the plantation. It is not a new thing. It is just that it's being recorded more often. The fathers been running. It's not anything new. It was just that now the women, prior to earlier, before the marriage rate started going down, the women would marry the men, or the men would marry them, whatever. They would get married, and the women would stay married while they were having the children. But the fathers would leave. It would be a lot. How many people know of someone, an uncle or cousin back in the 60s that you heard he had a family, but you never saw the family? I had an uncle like that. We heard he had kids and a wife somewhere. He showed up to my grandpa and grandma's house, lived there for 20 years. We never saw the family.
Woman.
Yeah, but that's because the women are the ones taking care of the kids.
How do you know that?
No, they're not.
Because we.
How do you know
this
that?
is where. Hold on. So let me just clearly state it. So you guys think that black fathers are being kept out of their child's lives because of the courts?
I think there are some, right?
Some,
Okay,
yes.
hold on. When you say some, like 40% or 1%, I need you to quantify that for me.
Well, I can quantify that 90% of custody is awarded to women.
Okay, and I can quantify that less than 48% of black women get child support because their baby daddies don't even pay. Epidemic of single mother black families. Do you think that
I can say
delusional?
But when you look at the ratio. When you literally have a system that will award a woman custody 90% of the time, you can't say every single time it was the man that didn't want to be there. The men don't have a choice when you know if you go into something, you're going to lose 90% of the time.
That the reason why women are awarded custody most of the time is because women are usually the ones taking care of the kids.
It's by choice.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Of course. Wait, hold on. You're
There's
telling
actually,
me. Let me get it. You think that men and women in the black community take care of children at home equally? That it's just as likely for the woman to work or the man to work, and both of them are just as likely to be.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that
wait.
System.
Let me say this. First of all, the women are not taking care of the children. Most of these children are wards of the state. They may as well be. The state is taking care of those children. The food stamps is feeding them. Section 8 in public housing is putting a roof over their head. These women are not doing anything except presiding over these children. Not to mention the fact that there is an epidemic in the black community of children being abused. And if you go look up the...
I got to stop it right there because I want to share I want to share something else because I want to show how good he claims. You know, he claims that all these people are living so wonderfully under the welfare system. But I want to show exactly how good it is to live under the welfare system. And this is something that's been going on, again, since the 1960s, because where black women couldn't even sign up for welfare prior to 1964. So I want to show how excellent and, you know, the wonderful life that the women were having in the welfare system. The absolutely beautiful life that he said that they were living. Okay.
He was her landlord. She was the frequent victim of burglars who on one occasion stole a television set, an iron, dishes, an electric knife, and a toaster. She had bought most of these items on time only 3 weeks earlier and had to go on paying for them even though she had lost them forever. Despite the condition of the building, Mrs. Williamson got out of it only when thieves took some pipes that cut off the heat. The city then put the family in the apartment they now occupy. 2 of Mrs. Williamson's grade school children, Gregory, 12, and Kevin, 9, return home in mid-afternoon. She tries to see to it that they study. 2 older children come home later. Mrs. Williamson is fearful about what might happen to her family growing up in a bad neighborhood.
The neighborhood is full of dope addicts. I mean, it's getting to the place that these addicts are stand right in front of abandoned buildings and take the needles and the kids looking at them. And
you see, this is 1969. This is 1969. They're talking about dope heads being in their neighborhoods. They're talking about the neighborhood being infested with crime. They're talking about not being able to come home without fear of somebody have already broken into their house. This woman's appliances were stolen. Somebody broke in her house and stole her appliances. They stole her hair dryer. They stole her purse. And then the only reason she was able to move because they came back again and stole all of her plumbing out of her house. So then the city moved her into a new apartment. But we saw how the apartment looked. And this is the luxury that these men are saying that they're getting. And again, she's married. This woman is married. Her husband is gone. Left her with the kids, and she hasn't heard from him in 9 years. The wonderful married woman who was supposed to be getting, it was supposed to be so much better because she was married. I'm going to show her house one more time. Because this is the house this is the luxury apartment that these men act like these women are getting. They're getting luxury apartments, and they're getting over on the system because of welfare. Let's go. Them and the kids are supposed to be living this, and they're in the high rises, I guess, and they're living in the east, like the Jefferson says, moving on up because they're on welfare and receiving public housing. Has this man ever saw public housing? Let's see again how her house looks. Her and her 6 kids and her husband that's absent.
There, she paid $100 a month for a slightly larger apartment. Again, the city was her landlord. She was the frequent victim of burglars who on one occasion stole a television set, an iron, dishes, an electric knife, and a toaster. She had bought most of these items on time only 3 weeks earlier and had to go on paying for them even though she had lost them forever.
So what they mean is that she bought them on time. That meant it was on credit, like what they would consider rent to own. So even though all of those things, her TV, her iron, had been stolen, she had to continue paying for this stuff because she was leasing it or renting to own it, even though it was gone, because she more than likely she didn't have insurance on it.
Despite the condition of the building, Mrs. Williamson got out of it only when thieves took some pipes that cut off the heat. The city then put the family in the apartment they now occupy. 2 of Mrs. Williamson's grade school children, Gregory, 12, and Kevin, 9, return home in mid-afternoon. She tries to see to it that they study. 2 older children come home later. Mrs. Williamson is fearful about what might happen to her family growing up in a bad neighborhood.
The neighborhood is full of dope addicts. I mean, it's getting to the place that these addicts are stand right in front of abandoned buildings and take the needles, and the kids looking at them.
The dope addicts. This is 1969. Because these men, this is important for you to remember this, because later on during this debate, these men are going to say that drugs didn't play a part in the Black community until the 1980s. This is 1969. See, a lot of people forget that heroin was a big issue within the Black community in the 1960s. Heroin hit the Black community very hard, and it was just as much crime back in the 1960s. It's just that Black people didn't have the access to GUNS as much as they did in the 80s. So it was probably not as much. It wasn't as much. I got to be very careful with the words that I use. It wasn't as much unaliving, but it was a lot of SAing still, and it was a lot of robberies, and there was a lot of home invasions, and then it was a lot of needle use, substance use, and the neighborhoods were terrible, and they were riddled with crime.
And every time you walk the street, most of these kids you see, they got this glue in their hand, and it's getting to be terrible. These 9 and 10-year-old children out here taking dope.
9 to 10-year-old kids was doing dope in the 1960s. This was when, this is the time that they said the Black community was thriving. It was doing so well. It was in 2-parent intact families. It was, this is what they were saying. This is what they said. It was doing so well. But again, like I said, this is people from our generation, from the generation that was born in the mid 70s to the 2000s, that are now acting as if they have some type of like they was there, when all you got to do is just find the people who were actually there, find the old videos of the people who were actually there, and listen to what they're saying happened. Listen to what they said was going on during that time, because they were there. They know. Okay, let's share the screen again.
Majority of the time that they're being abused is when they're in the custody of their mothers. I just recently did a story about a mother who literally deleted her child. And when the police arrested her for it, she confessed the reason why I did it is because she loved her daddy more. Literally, she confessed this. This is not even my opinion.
I can't argue with like the stories you give me. Like I can give you one story for every other story that you've got. I can't argue with that. If you think the majority of Black men aren't in their households with their children because of like judges, I don't like.
It's a number of things.
You could never give that number. There's no stat. There's no way you can ever say that's
what
insane.
what I can do is I can look at where custody is being awarded. I can look at where the welfare money is being distributed. Right. I can look at, so for example, even what you said earlier about women getting houses, I can look up something as simple as Section 8 vouchers. You're making it seem like these women are just, that they just had to do this hard job of taking care of their child. If it wasn't for Section 8 welfare, food stamps, and a court system, you don't know what would happen.
Well, yeah, because working and taking care of a kid at the same time is not possible. You need help. You can't do that as a single parent. So when you say, where is the welfare money going? Probably going to the people that have the child.
It's so, I'm gonna pause it for a second. It is so like mind-boggling that these men act as if being on welfare is this grand luxury. And not only that, they are literally abstinence of actually knowing that the only way you can get on welfare is if first and foremost, if you qualify for it. So these are women who actually qualified for welfare. They qualified for welfare because they were below the poverty level. That is the standard that is set for people to get on welfare. Not only that, if they were married to the father and he had them on his employer's Medicare, his employer's healthcare plan, then they wouldn't have went down to sign up for Medicare, which when you go and sign up for Medicare in most states and then attempt to sign up for anything else like food stamps or childcare, they will make you give the father's name and they will place him on child support. Because guess what? The state does not want to be the only sole provider to your children. You as a man have to pay for your kids. Welfare, nobody is living a luxury life on welfare. Absolutely nobody. Shar just as Shar says, it has been said that the man was tricked and she had the children so she can qualify for those benefits. Tricked how? Tricked how? Because this is the thing. Every race of men is having sex. As far as I know, every single race of men is having sex. Somehow, only the kings, the first men, the gods, the pharaohs, whatever you want to call them, only the kings are the ones that is popping up everybody pregnant. It doesn't matter the race of the woman. They are the only ones that seem to be getting everybody pregnant, and everybody is tricking them. The thing is, you can only get pregnant and I've talked to my adult son about this. The only way a girl can get you pregnant, the only way a girl can get pregnant is if you put your bodily fluids in her. No man is tricked into a pregnancy. He ejaculated into somebody, and that's how they got pregnant. They are saying that the woman had the power choice not to have the child. She is in control 100% of the time. Everybody, this is the thing. They don't have to delete a child simply because you dumped your sperm in them. Because the first choice is always the man. The first choice to not ejaculate in a woman, to wear a condom, not only to prevent pregnancy, but to prevent STIs. Wear a condom so that you don't get somebody that you have absolutely no plans on spending time with outside of the bedroom so that you don't get them pregnant. Why, as a man, would you dump your sperm into a woman that you don't like, that you don't know, that you have no plans on a long-term situation with? Because regardless of whether it turns into a long-term relationship, if there's a child, that is a lifetime that you're going to have to be around this person. Even after the child is an adult, the child is going to may have kids, and now you and this person shares grandchildren, great grandchildren. You're going to be at this child's graduations together. You're going to be at this child's marriage together if they get married. You're going to be at all this child as they grow, and even into adulthood. You're going to be at all of their significant events together. So why would you dump your sperm into somebody that you have no plans on having a long-term commitment with? There's a talking point for everything we are asking. There should be a PDF created. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm willing to debate anybody on these specific things, because it makes no sense for a man to be thinking that he can dump his fluids. That response would be, you should have chose better. Well, you know what? There should be better then. And this is the thing. I'm sorry. I got really bad heartburn right now. The women aren't the ones. The women are having the children and finding a way to go head on, and the women are having the children and finding a way to make it work. The men are the ones on the internet crying and complaining. So guess what? Who should have chose better? The men should have. If the woman isn't the woman you want to have kids with, and now she's got you on child support, and she took 90% custody of a child that is yours, and you're claiming that you're not able to see your kids. You're not able to see your kids. She's got me on child support. She's a whore. She's a twerker. Then who should have chose better? Sounds like to me you should have chose better who you put your sperm in. Because she's fine. You claim she's living it up on welfare and public housing, and getting the food stamps and twerking it off and getting it and doing whatever she wants to. And now she's got your child, supposedly your legacy, and she's doing what she wants to. The response to that will be 80% of the men don't have children. Well, that's a lie. And I'm gonna pull that statistic up while we watch some more of this infantile debate.
Which is going to be the mothers, of course. But like Section 8 and food stamps.
Who's giving the mother the child?
I mean, both of them are, right?
We just said that the court system 90% of the time gives the child to who?
Why do you think 90% of the time the mother is getting the child?
Because I think our court system has a bias towards giving children to women and ruling against men.
So I just want to hear this so it can be stated, because it's ridiculous. You think that at least 50% of those black men would have fought to keep their children over the mom? You think that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think if those black men, hold on a second.
Yeah.
If those black men would have been armed with daddy government to get Section 8 welfare, food stamps, WIC, PP.
So, just ask her for your last statement about I'm going to stop sharing this for a second, and I'm going to share, hold on, I'm going to share the actual Census Bureau's actual data on fathers who have children by race. Here we go. Let's share it. Because the thing is, a lot of times when, let me take you off the screen. A lot of times when these men go through debates, nobody really challenges them. They just let them just throw out anything. They're just throwing out everything, the kitchen sink. They're throwing everything that they can throw, just to try to make a point. And nobody really challenges it, or they will challenge it, but they won't actually show any data and show the actual proof that lets everybody know that they're lying. So it says right here, when do men become dads? So The second graph is black, meaning black fathers. And it has the age groups. The age groups are up here. The darker purple the darker purple would be age 15 to 19. Then you have the medium purple, which is age 20 to 29. Then you have the lighter one, which is age 30 to 39. And then age 40 to 49 is the lightest color purple. So we see the graph. It's right here. We have white males, black males, Asian males, Hispanic males. Black males is the second one. Now let's read the graph. By the age of 4, let's read the last one. The last one. Does everybody see the actual graph? The last one right here. You see my little mouse is pointing to that. This last one right here. This one that says 80.5. This is a percentage. So by the age of 40, between 40 and 49, 80.5% of black men have children. By the age of 40 to 49, 80% of them are fathers. And it may be higher because the fact of the matter is there are a lot of black children who don't even have a father on the birth certificate. And there's a lot of, I won't say there's a lot, but there's like 30% of black children who don't have a father listed on the birth certificate. And there may be some who don't actually know who their fathers are. So the ones who actually are stating, who are on a birth certificate, who are stating that they are fathers, 80% of black males that are 40 to 49 years old. So if a black male lives, he doesn't die, or for whatever reason, because we, like I said before, like I showed the data before, they start dying off at age 34 and up, at age 35 and up, I'm sorry. But the ones who actually live to be 40, 80% of them have children. And even at the age of 30 to 39, 62% of them have children. So this whole notion that 80% of them don't have children is an absolute lie. They need to stop telling that. It's hard to, if you're a woman that's 30 or over, it's hard to meet a black man that doesn't have children. The majority of them do. So that's a lie. So we're going to get past that. So if somebody does tell you, if you hear a black man saying that only a small percentage of black men have children, pull up the actual census. This is the United States Census. This isn't some poll that was taken. This is the United States Census. When people fill out the census, and then they can actually get data from hospital reports on birth certificates, that this is the percentage of men who actually have children. So yeah, if you're a 40-year-old woman and you're trying to date a man, a black male between the age of 40 and 49, 80% of them have children. So don't let them fool you and say that 20% don't. I mean that 80% of them don't. Let me stop sharing my screen and go back to Angry Bird. Angry Man. There we go.
PPP loans, tax write-offs, or whatever, right? Oh, anybody can take care of a kid if you give them all that stuff. And then when you have the court system ruling that you're going to get the child 90% of the time, the men are automatically from the rip eliminated.
Okay, so how do you square this away? And maybe you don't agree with the Angryman who said this. Maybe the Angryman wants to amend a statement.
Yeah.
How do you square this away with the fact that it's only like a few black men are knocking up like 50 women? Like you're telling me those men, if it's only a few men that are fucking over all of women giving them babies, are those guys just trying to find a kid that they can eventually keep, or what's going on there? Would that guy want to keep every child?
No, those are the deadbeats. That's why I cited that stat, 8%. Those are the deadbeat guys. No guy of any value is gonna try.
Let me say something. The difference is, right, that those men don't get handouts from the government and sympathy from people such as yourself when they do those things.
Wait, but you could.
So you're telling me there's a massive amount of those men get the type of men that do that get Section 8 as much as women?
If you have a child, isn't the Section 8 qualification only based on income? And then you also
look
get
at how
look
it's being distributed.
No.
No, you can't ask.
These men are idiots. The little biracial one at the bottom, or he may be black. I don't know, because there are black people that are his skin tone. Nonetheless, government assistance is given out by income. There are certain things that are gender based, but government assistance, food stamps, because there's black men at the grocery store all the time trying to sell their food stamps, child care, and welfare checks are given out nowadays by who has custody of the child and by income. Black men have in some cities and states 30% unemployment rate and are receiving Social Security for random things. I'm a psych nurse. I have 20-some-year-old black men coming into my job, my emergency room, that are on Social Security because they were shot, because they are alcoholics, because of anything. And nobody is all over the internet whining and complaining about these men getting unemployment and getting Social Security for things that Social Security when they are totally able-bodied. Welfare, food stamps, and childcare are given to the parent that is the primary, where the children are in primary placement, and it goes by income. And it's not that the income is sort of very low. You have to have a low income. The poverty level is really low for you to get food stamps and childcare and all these things. So these men that are acting like these women are just living these luxurious lives, I just don't get it. Like, these women are literally living in poverty with black men's children. These children are not made out of immaculate conception. These children have fathers. Where are the fathers? And if you want your children to live better, go and get them. Go and get them from these women. And then for him to be saying that the men would be able to do so much better if they were offered a bunch of free stuff. Somebody named Patriarchal Strike Back. Like, you want to be respected by other races of men by saying that the only way you can raise your children is by getting food stamps and government assistance. Clearly, that's letting us know that you can't afford to have children either, because the children that are on these government assistance are your children. So not only does the mother need the assistance, you need the assistance because your kids is on welfare. The women make it hard for the man to be in the child's life. Well, then go to court. Go to court. And you're going to hear Destiny bring up how often men who contest primary placement and want actual physical placement of the children, how often they get it. The problem is that these men don't go to court to get their children. And if you're having this, the thing, if you have a baby by a woman who you aren't really in a relationship, then maybe a what they call it now, a sneaky link, or somebody that you're just having sex with, and you for whatever reason decide you're gonna ejaculate in her. And then a woman who barely knows you and you barely know her, and you think she just gonna just give you a baby after she has it. Just give it to you, huh? That may be the reason why 6 out of 10 black girls report having been essayed, because you have men who don't care about these children, don't know the mothers, and are literally hurting the children. And with all of that being going on, and so many women that are traumatized by their past experiences during their childhood, yeah, they are leery about just giving their kids to a man that they barely know. And somebody could say, well, they shouldn't have had a kid with somebody they barely know, which I can sort of give a little bit leeway on that, but And I'm not saying this is in all situations, because a lot of times these are actual relationships that they break up, and it just ends up being that the mother gets primary placement. And like I said, the fathers are not trying to get primary placement, so they can't say that wait, the women will make it. The women are, if they're making it hard for you, then go to court and get placement of your kids. That's all I can say.
Housing being distributed, because if more women are single moms, then more dad are single dads, then of course more
Once
women are getting
again,
Section 8, of course.
Who gives the child to the mom?
When men,
I'm saying
mom
this.
taking care of it. How many of these guys have left before the kid is even born?
How do you know that? How can you quantify that?
Ooh, I got something right here to show for that. Good evening, Mr. DJ Music. Good evening. Peace to the chat. Good evening. I got something to show for that question. I'm gonna rewind it just a little bit so y'all can hear what he said, because I got something, a response for that. Okay.
that's why I cited that stat, 8%. Those are the deadbeat guys. No guy of any value is gonna try. Go ahead.
Let me say something. The difference is, right, that those men don't get handouts from the government and sympathy from people such as yourself when they do those things.
Wait, but you could.
So you're telling me there's a massive amount of those men get the type of men that do that get Section 8 as much as women?
If you have a child, isn't the Section 8 qualification only based on income? And then you also
look
get
at how it's being
No.
distributed.
No, you can't ask me how it's being distributed, because if more women are single moms, then more dad are single dads, then of course more women are getting Section 8, of course.
Who gives the child to the mom?
When men,
I'm saying this.
Taking care of it. How many of these guys have left before the kid is even born?
How do you know that? How can you quantify that?
We can.
Now, I just showed before Mr. DJ Music came in the chat. I just showed the video from the 1960s where the fathers had left, and this was married. This was a married woman. The father was already gone. And then this whole welfare conversation, I want to show one. It's another video that I'm going to show right quick, because this whole welfare conversation, where it's acting like only the women and children are benefiting from the Section 8. You don't have to. We started with the 1960s. This is the 1970s. Let's show it.
In any given
1970s. Because they claiming just the women and the kids that are, they living it up on the food stamps and the welfare. Just the women and the kids. I already showed you a married woman in 1960. Husband had been gone for 9 years. 1960. Because they claim that this welfare thing didn't start getting bad until 1980s. Because prior to that, everybody was married and doing good. They was moving on up to the east side with the Jeffersons. And I showed in 1969, the married father, had been gone for 9 years, and the mother and the kids was living in a heroin addicted neighborhood, where their apartment was being robbed, not only their appliances, but their piping. And they were living in a 5-bedroom, not 5-bedroom, 5-room, bathroom, kitchen, living room is 3 rooms, and then 2 bedrooms. They were living in a 5-room apartment, her and 6 children, and the father was gone. No, she said she hadn't seen him in 9 years. Okay, so not only are the fathers yeah, they had that luxury apartment that we showed. They got a piece of the pie. So this is the 1970s. That was the 1960s, when the time was supposed to be so great and black families were flourishing supposedly, and the fathers were still there, even though they weren't there. I'm not gonna say all of them were gone. We already know that there's exceptions, that it's not a 100% of everything. This is the 1970s, because they keep talking about welfare as if the fathers weren't benefiting from welfare as well. It's 1970. Let me share it.
in any given month, there are about
Fair use.
450,000 families drawing welfare checks in California. Every 2 weeks, the mailman delivers a check to the home of Cynthia Jones. She, her husband, and 2 children collect $423 a month. Mrs. Jones has been on welfare nearly 4 years. Her husband has not worked since last December.
This woman and her 2 kids and her husband are on welfare. This is 1970. The woman, her 2 kids, her husband on welfare. They've been on welfare for 4 years. And the father has been unemployed for 4 months, supposedly. So that meant that he did not have enough money to support the family prior to him losing his job. The whole family has been on welfare for 4 years. Welfare, so I guess welfare didn't kick you out the house because you're right there. You're right there holding a little baby. I see you. I'm gonna rewind it a little bit so you can hear that again. So won't nobody think that I made that up.
Jones. She, her husband, and 2 children collect $423 a month. Mrs. Jones has been on welfare nearly 4 years. Her husband has not worked since last December. Twice a month, she follows the same routine. First, she cashes the check at the supermarket, then goes to another part of town to purchase food stamps, $71 worth every month. The stamps buy $170 worth of groceries. There's rent, about $170. Utilities run $45. And she has a small insurance policy on her 3-year-old daughter. Other expenses eat up the rest. The state has an automatic cost of living increase for those on welfare. It averages about $200 each.
This family of 4, 2 children, a mother and a father that are married in 1970, it has been on welfare for 4 years. No, this can't be true. This has to absolutely be a lie. This has to be made up because, if they're married, they would need welfare. They married, the households would be flourishing. The man would be the protector and the providers. There would be no reason for her to go and sign up for food stamps and welfare. He would be taking care of that because she would be in this married situation and in this 2-parent household, and the kids would be living it up. Whereas she's collecting $200 some in welfare per month for a family of 4 and going to pay all the expenses while daddy's sitting there, married, mind you, married again. As I said, they're married. These people are married. This is a married couple. But let them tell it. Women just grabbed hold of welfare and left the men behind. Let's get back to Angry Bird and Destiny.
We can literally look up numbers.
Go ahead, quantify how many dads leave don't put their name on the birth certificate versus how many men. We literally can find the data for men that lose custody of their children in court. Show me the data of men that leave their child at the hospital.
Okay, I can try to find this, but it's going to take me a little.
You know what makes me upset about this debate is that Destiny, I just really wish that he would have went a little bit harder on them and made them actually, all this information that they said that they could find, all this data, all these statistics that they said that they could find, I wish he would have made them actually prove it and actually show it. They, at no point during this entire conversation, because it wasn't a debate. Well, it was a debate. Like I said, it was a debate on intellect versus infantile. At no point did he actually make them prove anything that they were saying. They didn't have to show any proof. They didn't have to show any data. Able-bodied at that. Exactly. If anybody, like I said, the link is in the comment section if anybody feels like they want to come up and say something. But yeah, he didn't make them prove anything that they were saying. They can't prove it, which makes it better to review to me. Exactly. I would, if I would have just liked for Destiny to say, hey, send me the proof of anything, because they keep telling him that he has to prove and quantify everything that he's saying. So I would have liked him to make them qualify the things that they were saying. But at no point did he say, hey, can you show me where you got this data from? Because most of it was, Tutu up the street had told me one time, or my cousin Lolo, she was on welfare one time. Nothing was provable. It was no type of data that they had to show to, to prove anything that they were saying, which is sort of frustrating, but hey, it's not surprising.
A little bit. I don't have this number like offhand, but I can try to find it. But why do black men have this unique problem, and all these same welfare systems exist for white people, for Indian people, for Asian people as well.
That's that hit the hammer on the nail. Why is this situation so unique to black men that their children are the ones? Oh, DJ Music, I see you coming up. That for some reason everybody else is able to make it through this, but black men and their children. I'm going to be adding DJ Music to the conversation. Hello, DJ Music. You can unmute yourself.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you? How are you?
Hi,
Nice
how
to
are
meet
you?
you.
I'm doing great. Thank you for
Doing
coming
great.
up.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice stream. I checked you out the other night. Shout out Char Willie down in the chat room. She pointed me to your direction. You're doing an excellent job. I'm quite impressed with what I've heard so far. Intellectually speaking, like you said, Angryman has absolutely no fight in this arena at all. And you're right.
He actually made everything that he was trying to prove. He made himself look bad. The people that he brought onto the panel, they made themselves look bad. It was 3 against 1 at one point, and
they still lost.
And they still lost.
And you're absolutely right. I wish Destiny would have done the same thing, that he was doing that they tried to do him. Prove what you're saying. He did let him off the hook with that. You got all these facts and figures. Show them to him. Where are they?
Exactly. And I don't know which generation you're in, but I'm a first year millennial. So I'm in my 40s, and a lot of the conversations around welfare were supposedly happened in the 80s. It was supposed to be so terrible, and that was during the time that it was supposed to be the decapitation of the black family. And when you look back and really research when it really started happening, which to me it was never a solid family even prior to that. I think if you come to America as slaves, as enslaved people rather, and then
you're absolutely right.
The plantation.
You're absolutely right.
I don't see at any point where it was just like, oh, we were all solid. Our communities were, were on solid ground. I think we were always on shaky ground.
Right. Absolutely. 1 foot in the grave and 1 on a banana peel, which, you slip to the left, slip to the right. You're absolutely right.
Exactly. And when you have, I don't understand why the men just can't say, hey, it was a multitude of things. There's been a multitude of things that have just not allowed the family structure to be on solid grounds.
Part of that is accountability, as you can see with and the clip that you just played. A family of 4 living on $435 a month in welfare, while you have an able-bodied black man sitting in the house. Even if you got to go out and dig a ditch, anything be the blank. But as you said, you're a child of the in your 40s, and of course I'm over 50. So both and I have, both you and I understand that. There was no point in time that I was around any black woman that said, get out of the house because I need to go get welfare.
It was no time that was happening. Even in the 80s, I grew up in the 80s and 90s. Even in the 80s and 90s, when there was like projects, my auntie lived in the projects. I had never saw a family that didn't have a father that was there. It was men in the projects with the women and the children.
Right. And again, I think a lot of these guys come from that idea that everybody lived the lifestyle that they did. Everybody lived, and I hate to use the term, but the ghetto or broken homes. Not every black person lived like that. Some of those experiences, black people, we don't share. I share an experience with growing up with parents, uncles and aunts and cousins, family unions, where a lot of these guys shared their shared experience on what block we was on last month.
Exactly. Like I grew up the same way. My grandparents were married for 50-some years. My aunts, they had many, many children. Their children were married. I'm married. It's just, I think that they have so much internalized trauma and hatred. And instead of them going to actually get help for the things that they have going on mentally, they have found an outlet by jumping on the internet and jumping on the internet,
Right.
finding like-minded people who also have trauma, and they just are venting with each other and trauma bonding with each other.
Absolutely, and you hit the nail on the head. Misery loves company, and what a better place to go where the internet leads you to a little bit more anonymity, because you don't have to put your picture up, you don't have to put your location up. You can say anything you want to. So with that anonymity, it's like I can get this weight off my shoulder, and it seems like I'm talking to people, but I'm actually just releasing the pressure and waiting to exhale, as they say.
Yes, yes, and it's quite sad that they don't understand that the image that they're trying to run away from, the image that they don't want portrayed of black men, they are actually perpetuating those images.
They created it because the environment that, like you just said, that you came up from, that I came up from. We that if you had a cousin that was out of line, the whole family knew about it, and the whole family rallied around that particular person. As they say, if you saw your girl cousins, if your aunties and your uncles saw your girl cousins a little bit hot under the collar, they checked her on it. Now it's celebrated by those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because at 35, black women hit the wall.
No, they said 25.
Oh, Lord.
It said 25. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to keep on listening.
Okay.
To this.
Why do black men have this unique problem? Did you really ask that question?
Well, number one, I do think so. Hold on a second. I will yield a couple points to what Destiny's talking about in terms of crime, right?
Yeah.
I do think that there is a culture of crime that is present, right? But I do think that when it kind of is a chicken and egg conversation. I think that when you're raised in a single mom household, that it kind of is a cycle, right? That's what I honestly think. So I do see what he's saying in terms of crime, but at the same time, it's not like the court system. It's not like if a black father out there wants his child, that the courts, even if the mom is strung out, that the courts are going to do everything to make sure that black father is able to have his kid.
Well, here's the reality. These are the numbers when it comes to, well, not the numbers, but this is the reality when it comes to black families. When you have black families, when there's a structured black family where you have the father and the mother, the child is way more likely to succeed and not get in any trouble or things of that nature. Also, if the child is awarded, if the father is awarded custody of the child and he's being raised by a single father, he's less likely to get into trouble. The only time we see black men growing up and getting into a lot of trouble is when they're single mother raised. Now, the reason why this is, in my personal opinion, because I can't really quantify it, is because the women of today are not really taking the time to actually teach those children. They're actually zoning out. They have the children in the household running buck wild, they go outside, they run buck wild, and they're not really playing a heavy role in those children's lives. So that's what's going on culturally.
Yeah, but the question is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at this number. So here, this is like, because I've never looked at like this particular data before, but listed someone here, apparently 32% of black newborns have no father listed on the birth certificate. Now, this is just Cook County, Illinois, but
that's one part.
That is one part. Do you have any numbers on how many black fathers are listed on the birth certificate?
I know that I have numbers on how many children are awarded custody to their mother. I know that.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything.
I still have 90%. You have 30%.
Yeah, but you don't know why the number is 90%. That's the whole part of that conversation.
And you don't know why that number is 30%.
Well, is it because
maybe the mom told him the wrong hospital? I mean, if you're just making up, we both can make up numbers.
Okay. I can't think of many reasons why somebody wouldn't be on a birth certificate. If you can't, well, maybe the father dies. I don't know. That'd be a reason to give up. I can't think of many reasons why. If you can think of something,
I can give you a couple reasons. I can give you a couple reasons.
Reason why 90% of custody should be awarded to women.
I can give you a ton of reasons right now. Women tend to be primary caregivers for children. Courts tend to prioritize the well-being of the child, and a lot of fathers that fuck a woman might just end up leaving completely. So there's like,
how do you know the last one?
How do I know that fathers are more likely to leave mothers than mothers are?
How do you know that with something that is that radical, with 90% to 10%, right? How do you know that every single one of those was a father that just did not want to be there? Okay, so if it's 90%, how do you know if even half of those were a father that just did not want to be in the child's life?
I don't know I don't know what the exact numbers are. If you're going to tell me that some men fight custody battles and they should win, but they lose because of a gender bias, that probably happens for sure. But when you look at a number like 90-10, that's not all sexism. A lot of that is going to be people awarded to mothers because the mother is the primary caregiver in that situation.
Well, here's
I don't
the
even
thing.
know if the
Here's the
90%
thing. When it
figure is
comes to
accurate. I'm trying to find a number.
I think it's like last time I checked, 90%.
Look,
I'm rounding up, and I think.
So this guy is just really just
It's a bunch of rhetoric, right?
Exactly.
You hear that excuse? Well, maybe he went to the wrong hospital. Who
Yeah,
does
how
that?
can you show?
Who
Can
says
you
things like that?
go
Right.
back to
That's
the
your argument.
hospital?
Right. That is your argument. In a debate, that's your argument.
That's your argument that he just showed up to the wrong hospital. And this is the thing. If you really are adamant about being in your child's life and you know that there's a child that is born and you're supposedly the father, you can literally go down to the court system and go down
Petition.
and petition and say, hey, I believe I have a child. I want to be placed on the birth certificate. Ever since 2000, I believe, I know in my state, that the law has been that the father, any child born after 2000, the father automatically is able to place his name on the child his
Absolutely
last
right.
name.
It went on to the ballots in 1998. It wasn't ratified and made into law until 2000. You're absolutely right.
Yes, even if they're not married, the father legally has the right to say.
Right. And all he has to do is go petition the courts for a DNA test and say, hey, I believe that the chance that I had relations with this woman, she turned up pregnant, the child might be mine. I'm going to petition the courts for a legal swab or whatever, check the child. The child's not mine. Okay, no harm, no foul. The child is mine. I want to be in the child's life somehow, even if it's through structured visitation. That's something.
And even and in my state, unless there is some like the father is a felon or is some astronomical reason, the father, any child born after 2000, if the father goes to the court and is proven that he is the father has the right to request that the child has his last name, and to request have custody of the child. Now, the mother may still receive primary placement, but the father can still have 50% visitation rates for the child.
Right, and depending on the if it's a crime of against children, of course, that would weigh heavily to any judge on that situation. So,
right, but in even fathers who have a criminal background, they still can go and petition.
Yes, absolutely.
It just depends on the actual
on the actual crime itself, right?
On the actual conviction. The problem is that a lot of these fathers are not even attempting because they don't want to just tell the truth. You don't want to be bothered with the child.
And like Destiny said, there's only two reasons why a man does not appear on the child's birth certificate. Either he's dead or you don't want to. Those are the only two reasons.
Exactly. Because we all know of children out here who I know excellent Black fathers. I want to put that out. I know Black fathers that are excellent fathers, and I know Black fathers who aren't.
Yes.
So I think the Black fathers who are excellent fathers and who know what it takes to be a father and who have actually had their names on their children's birth certificates, they know the process and they know that it's not a hard process. Right. So I showed up at the wrong hospital, all these excuses. That is like the dumbest excuse. I would have never even.
Those are grown men in their 40s that's giving those excuses.
Should have never said. He said he probably came.
Maybe went to the wrong. Right. You had no other argument but that.
Wow. Let's keep going.
I think it's like 88 or 89.
If you want to know where the 90% comes from, it's very simple. There are a lot of practices that go on in the court system that are still reminiscent of the past. It's still archaic. Okay, it's no different than the freaking marriage license. It's no different than any of that. We're still operating under the presumption that women are going to be better caregivers. That's the main reason. They automatically.
That's not a presumption. That is not a presumption. That's a fact.
that is the not only that, the majority of the children as they get older, even during divorces, when the children are asked,
Naturally gravitate to their mothers.
yes, when they are asked, what parent would you like to live with, the children choose their mothers most of the time. And
Most of
not
the
only
time.
that, when he said archaic, like back in the first of all, it's not archaic because back in the early 1900s and prior to that, the
Child
children
support.
would automatically go with the father.
Right. And child support wasn't put on the books for black men anyway.
There was no such thing as child support, and the children, if especially if you were married and you try to leave, if the husband said my kids are staying here,
They're
they stay
staying.
here.
They're right. Right.
Um,
I'm sure that they've all watched The Godfather enough. They've seen how Michael operates.
Not only that, if you ever pay attention to any of the biopics and autobiographies of black famous people, James Brown, um,
Hmm.
Aretha Franklin,
You never hear about the other side of it.
I'm saying in those, if you saw the Aretha Franklin Respect movie, who took custody of Aretha Franklin?
The father.
Her father. And her
Right.
mother would have to stand outside the house and beg to see her kids.
Yeah.
Not only
Yes.
Not only that, James Brown, they showed at the very beginning his mother being made to leave. They lived like in the woods. His father was shooting at her as she was walking off. And he said, "You're not taking my kids." So prior to child support and a lot of these custody laws, if the father wanted the kids would stand with the father. You can be
Anyway. Right. I mean, even so much in The Color Purple, you know, what Mister threw his sister out.
Yes, absolutely. So this is archaic time. This is
Right.
archaic. Like, no, it's not. Actually, this is actually rather new that mothers are getting custody of children. And
Yeah.
like I showed, you weren't here, but I showed a 1969 clip where it was a married black mother with 6 kids. She hadn't seen her husband in 9 years. He hadn't called. She said she had no clue where he was. So it wasn't like he attempted to take his kids, he just left.
Right.
So
You know, and a lot of times, you know, we hear, of course, you know, and our generations and generations prior to yours and mine, you know, there's always that two family thing, especially if you lived in a small town. You got to watch who you're dating because, you know, pops could be here with one family and over there with the other family.
Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Wherever he laid his hat.
Wherever he laid his hat, those type of songs came up because those were the type of things that
reality. Right. It's reality. Right.
It was many married men who had children on the side.
Yes, absolutely.
And like you said, you better be careful, especially if you live in a small town down south. You better be careful who you lay down with or who you are dating because you never knew if they was your sister or your brother.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. We got so many things in common. Yeah, the same daddy.
Right. Oh my God, Terrell Owens, when he did like a little documentary about his life. And you know who Terrell Owens is? He's a football.
Yes,
He's an
yes.
ex-football NFL player.
Yes.
So Terrell Owens said that he was living in a home with his mom and I believe his maternal grandmother. And there was a family that lived across the street. And he said he was so jealous of that family and because they had a father and a mother and the kids, and they were so well dressed and they got everything that they wanted. And he was so jealous because he didn't know where his daddy was. Come to find out, I think when he got to be like early teens or preteen age, that it was his father, the man that was living across the street with the
street.
Yes, and the man knew that he was his father that entire time. Yep, same daddy. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Assume that when two people separate, the woman is going to remain in the house and the man is going to leave the house. So the court system does not want to uproot the child out of the house that they're used to living in and put them in another house. That's the reason for that. Hold on. Let me say this. For the 32%, that are not on the birth certificates, there's a few things that could be. One, the main reason is they could not know who the damn father is. That's one of the reasons. One of the reasons is you got so much promiscuity, because here's the thing. When it comes to Black culture specifically, there are two things that are being promoted in our music, which has a huge effect on our culture, which is for the guys, gang culture, crime, drug dealing is constantly promoted. For the girls, promiscuity, acting like thoughts, that is constantly promoted. So
who's doing the music?
I was just about to say, and look how he's dressed.
And he, at the beginning, the very beginning, because this is my part 2, at the very beginning, he said he was conservative.
The conservative people don't dress like that. They dress in Oxford shirts.
This man with the New York cap on, the
shades,
the polo hoodie, and the Cuban link chain said he was conservative.
Conservative.
And I believe he's in his late 40s or early 50s.
Right. That's traditional.
That's traditional.
He threw that around a lot. Right. Right.
And now he's talking about the music is what's causing the promiscuity. But who is making the music?
Absolutely. Again, I mean, you got to think about that. We talk about the Papa was a Rolling Stone, but to think, I mean, the songs the Temptations did make, they didn't, although they spoke about promiscuity in a clandestine kind of way. They weren't as wide open as these guys. They created a culture. They created, excuse my language, they created a whole culture. Yeah. And it got too big for them. Yeah. Now that you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube now.
The roosters had come to.
That's it. Exactly it. Yeah. Exactly it. And then that one statement that he came up with, like a mic drop, because she don't know who she slept with. As a man, you should already know that a woman can only produce an egg at a certain time of month. As a man, you should know that.
I don't understand how you would be just dropping your sperm off into anything.
Anyway, but it's her fault because you decided not to have a condom. It's her fault.
Black men are not the only men that are having sex.
No, they're not.
Every race of man is having sex, but if these certain issues are, excuse me, if these certain issues are more prevalent in our communities, as far as women getting pregnant by men who claim they don't want the kids, the first way to prevent it is to not ejaculate into the woman.
Hey, but let them say it though. 80% of the women that get pregnant are getting pregnant by 20% of the men.
Well, I just showed. I don't know if you was here when I showed the actual census on the percentage of men who have children. Were you here when I?
No, but I know it's a far fetched number from what they're speaking of. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's 80% of Black men that are age 40.
Yeah, have children.
According to the census, have children.
Yes. Yes.
So 80% is the majority. So
the majority, right?
So
don't it doesn't leave a whole lot of wiggle room, does it?
Exactly.
Right. So if you're a Black man or a man that's still sexually active and you're in your 40s and you run into a female that's in her 30s and 40s, chances are she's going to have children.
Chances are both of you are going to have children.
Yes.
Chances are you both are going to have children, and
yes.
And it just is what it is. And
it is what it is.
And you deal with it. You learn how to cope with, how to co-parent with the other two parents that are involved, and you move forward from that. But pretending like, it's most of us don't have children and it's not us, and no, most of us do have children that are in our 30s and 40s. And if you are looking for women who don't have children, more than likely you're looking for somebody that is much younger.
Much younger.
Not to say that you can't find somebody that's in their 30s or 40s that doesn't have a child, but the likelihood of you finding that is slimmer than it is of you.
Right. It's not a needle. It's not the needle in the haystack thing, but it's a, and this is no disrespect on it, but it is a rarity to find a woman that's 35, 40 years old that don't have children.
And that's any race of woman. That's
Right. That's
any
it. Right.
woman or
Right.
man.
It is. Right.
Race
It
of
is.
woman or man. So yeah, let's keep going.
When you have that going on, you have more young boys that are more prone to go out here and be part of gangs because they want to be part of something, or to go out here and sell drugs because they may have grown up with a mom that didn't have any money. And the other part of this is women tend to, when they're single mothers, they tend to look at their sons as a meal ticket. Oh, he's going to grow up and go do this, or he's going to go out and go do this and help with the household because that's the little man of the house, right? So you got.
I'm trying to figure out who's looking at theirs. I mean, it's some women, like they said, that whose son are maybe in sports or athletes that may think their son may grow up to make money, but with the high unemployment rate within the community and the coddling of a lot of the boys and men, I don't think that they're looking at them as a meal ticket. I think
No.
a lot of times they need to cut the
Apron string
a lot sooner rather than having 30-year-old men living in their mom's house in the basement or on the couch.
Absolutely.
So
I'm right, and I'm speaking from personal that because I've told my sisters that you need to cut the apron strings of these nephews of mine. They're waiting on you. They're waiting on the moms to do everything. But that's how they live now.
Yeah. So where's the meal ticket part coming at? A lot of these men when they do leave the mom's house, they go straight to a woman's house.
Or their buddy's couch.
Yeah. And they move in with somebody else and start sleeping, like you said, sleeping on their couch and using their car and sitting on their couch playing Xbox and PlayStation all day.
Right.
Okay.
Got that going on. On the flip side of that, you got the girls growing up, going out here, getting into the party lifestyle, all of that different stuff, getting pregnant. Sometimes they don't even know who the damn father is. Why do you think you had the emergence of these goofy shows back in the 90s where you are not the father, all of that goofy stuff? There's a lot of stuff that factors into that.
Okay, so nothing you told me can be proven, right? There's no number, there's no data. It's just like your stories. I can try to find stuff. I'm just digging around to see. But like, so here's a couple of things that I found, right? This is talking specifically about like that 90% figure. That the certain men's rights groups have made the claim, and now the fucking page. Certain men's rights groups have made this claim. Seems obvious enough, given that it's that Chicago Tribune thing that I linked. Seems.
It's just crazy to me that they keep asking him to prove everything that he's saying, and they aren't proving anything that they're saying. That's a little irritating to me.
Right, but that's Angry Man's mantra. You know, he says, "I can say anything and don't have to prove it," and he lives by that. That's his calling. I can say anything. I can spout anything, whether it's right or wrong, and it's up to you to prove me wrong, or right. In most cases, he's wrong. So, I'm confused. I really am. I am.
Hold on.
Right. You still don't know what an NFT is, but we got you.
It's all right. I could. If you need me to tell you what an NFT is,
that's my favorite episode with him, the NFT.
Jesus. Okay. Certain men's rights groups have repeatedly made this claim, okay, that mothers have an automatic advantage in custody cases. It seems obvious enough given that more than 90% of the children of divorced and single parents live with their mothers. There's more to that statistic than meets the eye. Most divorcing or single fathers, roughly 90%, never ask for custody. In contested divorce and parentage custody cases, however, the father wins 60% of the time. So if that's true, that completely blows up your entire narrative.
Would you like me to ask? Would you like me to answer why that is?
Yeah, let me see.
Because I can tell you why that is if you really want to know. Because I had
they
this.
Don't go to court because they don't have the funds or whatnot.
They don't. Here's the thing.
Wait, and single moms do have the funds to go to court?
Here's the thing. No, wait a minute. Here's the thing. Because I had this issue when I first got on YouTube in 2015. There was a guy that I used to deal with that would actually help guys go to court. And the problem he kept encountering is most guys did not want to go to court to fight for custody because they believed they would automatically lose.
But 60% win. Most
but they don't know that. This is the point I'm trying to.
That's another fault of black men. That's more black men problems. They don't know that then.
Wait, hold on. Listen to what I'm saying. Not saying it's not their fault that they don't understand or educate themselves on what they can do in the court system. But you have to realize, for Black men culturally, the court is a place where they believe they're always going to lose.
Why is it always so many excuses that are given to, like,
Excuses are like assholes. Everybody got them, and they usually stink.
yes, indeed. And it's just like, if you want to be taken seriously in the world, especially you're debating somebody of an opposite that is a different race than you, and they live by a mantra that men are supposed to lead, and that they don't, like, making excuses just makes you look like a loser. So like all of these excuses, one excuse after another one, every time that he brings up that he actually proves that what they're saying is wrong, or shows a stat,
Another excuse.
Right.
Like, so now first you say that they just were losing in court, and now you're saying they're not even going to court because they don't know anything.
Because they're scared. And that's the mark of a man, not to walk up to a challenge, but to run away from it.
Well, the one guy's name is the patriarchal strike back.
Huh?
The guy the guy in the red hoodie, his name is the patriarchy strike back. And he's up there saying that, well, men, I think you missed the part where he said, well, men, they would take custody of their children more often if they were also allowed to get food stamps, free housing, and Medicare.
But see, those are the things that they really believe. They really believe that if I was able to sit on my ass and get money, that my children would be taken care of. Instead of going out saying, you know what, let me go out and work for honest days, live in an honest day's pay. Okay, child support hit me a little hard right now. Let me go out and find a second job. Or, in some cases, the mother passes away. But so let me go, and instead of finding a job and elevate myself a little bit, let me go over to the welfare office and sit back. That's the mark of a man.
The thing is that Black women are in the workforce more than any other race of women.
Mm.
So they keep talking about this whole welfare, and I'm gonna let this play out a little bit more while I look up that.
Okay, that's just a cultural thing. All right. We can't get around that. Now, I constantly
There's no way to get around that.
No, I'm saying we can't get around the fact that is a cultural thing they believe. Now, I constantly tell guys on my channel that you can go to court and win. And there are a lot of guys in the space that we're talking about who have went to court and won custody of their children. But most guys do not believe that they can do it. They believe that that's going to be a hard fight. In addition to the fact that the court system plays a lot of dirty tricks. A prime example is when a woman first goes to get child support. She goes to the court. She signs a affidavit. This affidavit states clearly that she has not received a single dollar from the named father, whoever she names as the father. She's saying that she's never seen a dollar from him. He's never given any support. Now, that initial court date, if the father is able to go to that court date and prove that he's given some money, then he'll win that case because she signed the affidavit. The problem is they don't serve fathers on that initial court date. And I know this because I went through it. You don't even know about that court date. If you're lucky enough to know about that court date, you can go and fight it. But what happens is
here's another excuse. So now
Right.
they don't even know they're supposed to have been at court.
Now, at this part, I was over on Bomb's Cherry. I didn't mean to mention her name, but I was on another panel earlier, and they were talking about this very same thing. Again, more excuses. And again, I've done a little history on Angryman, and his history is he's a guy of transient. He moves around from place to place to place. So at the initial letter that he might have gotten from said agency, he might not have gotten it. but it doesn't automatically mean that the state doesn't go through all makes and means and measures to contact you to say that you have a court case pending. And a lot of these guys, as I said earlier, a lot of these guys don't understand that they're not going to jail for child support. They are going to jail. They're being held in contempt of court because you failed to do what the judge asked you to do. That's where picking your police come to pick you up. It's not because you're not paying child support, because you went against the order too that's already in place.
Exactly. I'm gonna share right here. I just want to share my screen on the amount of Black women in the workforce compared to other races of women. Can everybody see this? Can you see it, J Music? Okay. So here, compare with other women, Black women have the highest labor force participation rate. This is from 2020. Total 56.2% of women are in the workforce. Out of that, 55.7% are white, 58.8% are Black, 56.4% are Hispanic, and then 56.8% are other races. Black women have experienced high unemployment, especially in the wake of the epidemic, compared to what they normally are used to working. So, Black mothers, Black moms too, have relatively high labor force participation. So, Black women, compared to other races of women, generally work more hours and work more years than other races of women. Hispanic women are right behind us, but compared to other races of women, Black women, that's why you see Black kids are the latchkey kids. Whereas when they're in single mother households, they are constantly they normally are latchkey kids because the mother is at work. That's why I don't understand why this conversation about welfare keeps coming up, because most Black mothers are not on welfare. They may be on, some of them may be on food stamps or Medicare, but that welfare is
right. They make too much.
Yeah, they make too much money. Everybody is doing double shifts and working 2 or 3 jobs. So this whole notion that they're just sitting around collecting, that they're just sitting around, collecting all these benefits and they're just living this luxurious life. It just it's really just nonsensical. Okay.
Don't get served by a process server for that court date. Half the time, these fathers don't even know they're on child support until one day they look at their check and money's missing. And they're like, what's going on? Then they contact the child support division to find out what's going on. And it's like, oh, you owe child support. Then they give them then they say, okay, well, when did this happen? Oh, well, you had a court date.
On. This sounds like completely not true because of my personal experience. Wait, real quick, because I'm just looking this up. So this is saying that like when you're doing like custody battles, you are right that the court won't serve the person. That's because it's your responsibility. If you're not going to have your wages garnished for child support when you were never served anything. There's no possible way that's true.
No,
and this is saying here that if the other parent is not
is
served within 120 days, your complaint will be dismissed.
That is true. You don't even know. Hold on. See, you don't know because you didn't go through it. Okay, number one.
I can't argue against your story. I can
number one. Wait a minute. Number one. Here's the reality. You will get served papers after you owe child support. You'll get served, but the initial court date, you rarely ever get served those papers. They will not track you down, is what I'm saying. They will not track you down for you to come to that initial court date. And the reality is, this has happened to me a couple of times.
It's happened to him a couple of times.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. He's a transient. He moves from place to place. So the last known address may be of his baby mama's. Well, I knew he lived in such and such a place. So they're going to go and look. Of course, she knows his name. He was their husband, or they lived together. So of course she has information about him. Well, where's the last place known you claimed that he worked at? And he worked in such and such a place. Your social security number identifies you, but through your payroll tax. Okay, so the next job that you get, there goes your number, your social security number takes a hit. Okay, it shows up as a garnishment, and then it goes to your what do you call that? The human resources thing. Human resources is not going to garnish your wages without telling you.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, this whole little story that he's making up about
it doesn't make sense.
they didn't know that they was even going to that they were even going to be garnished for child support until it's actually taken out of their checks. Like you said, first and foremost, the court will give you a couple times to not show up for court before they issue child support. After that, once they find out where you work at, human resources is contacted and stated that there's going to be a garnishment taken out of your check. Human
Yes.
resources contacts the person and says, hey,
Yes.
you're going to be receiving a garnishment for such and such reason from this person. And at
Yes.
that point, you can go to court and say, hey, I'm going to be garnished for child support for a child I don't believe is mine, or I want to fight for custody. That's not
Right.
happening clearly with these men, and this is just such malarkey. It's just
Right, because he says you get garnished, and all of a sudden you're on child support. Well, who has the number to child support in their back pocket?
he said he didn't even know he was going to be garnished until it was taken out of his check.
So where did you get the number from? How did you know?
Exactly.
Who did you know to call? How did you know when you went to pick up your check on Friday and it was short $200-$300? Who did you know to call? How you know it was child support?
Exactly. This is just a whole made up story. Everything that he is saying is all made up, or maybe one or two people that he knows something happened to, and it may not even be. They may have just been ranting and telling him some sorry story, giving him a bunch of excuses, and now he's on his show talking about it.
Yeah, these all sound like jailhouse confessions.
Absolutely, these are men who had met up in jail. They all rant and they all mad at the world.
Right. The jailhouse lawyer. Well, they took a little bit of this because they had nothing to do. They went into the local jail, the jailhouse library. They read some law books, and all of a sudden they got all the answers for everything.
Absolutely. It's just, I know Destiny is, the look on his face right now.
Utter disgust and boredom.
Yes. Like, why did I even sign up for this?
Right.
Because I kept having the same issue where I'm like, okay, I'm taking care of my children, but then she goes to the court to do whatever. I don't get the initial paperwork. Then when I go to court, I have to explain this to the judge. I did not get the initial paperwork.
Okay, real quick, because we don't need the whole process explained. So I just want to understand this. You're telling me that you could have two people living together, everything is chill. One person could sneak off to court. They could file for sole custody, go back home to the other parent, and months in it, everything can pass, and that whole process can be done without service ever being given to the party whose custody is being contested against.
Yes. You can look, here's the thing. They have what is called a TANF check, right? A woman can go and she can apply for a TANF check. And the reason why she's applying for this check is she's saying, I don't know who the father of my child is, right? Or the father of my child is not around. I don't know where he's at, right? So they say, okay, we'll give you this check. They'll give them that check for, I think the process is a year, right? But the amount of money that they get for that year is the equivalent of child support. And that money is stacked against the father.
What does he mean, the equivalent of child support? Everybody's child support amount is different.
It's different, right?
So
he acts like there's one for that. Every state has a different formula for child support.
Every state I don't get what he's talking about when he says a TANF check is the equivalent of child support.
I don't really understand. Again, these guys like to use these big words like quantify and act and then and all this other stuff. Okay, well, quantify what you just meant by that, because it make absolutely no sense. TANF is just that. Okay, the woman needed some kind of support from the state. Now, because you already placed on child support, of course the state is going to want to be reimbursed. And because, like you said, it's your responsibility to take care of your child while you were not able to take care of your child. We did. We want our money back.
Exactly. And he's saying that this happened to him, that the woman they were living together and she snuck off and signed up for welfare while they were together.
Right. That's basically what he just described. That the woman was snuck off, and now they were still living together. She snuck off, and he got placed on child support while she was still living with him.
I'm just like, she snuck off and signed up for welfare and child support while y'all was living together. Like
living together, yeah.
I'm like,
I was living in the same house at the same damn time.
if she did that, I'm gonna give him a benefit of the doubt. If she did that, that means that if he was the breadwinner of the house, he wasn't making enough to cover the bills. Because for some reason she felt that they needed extra money to help with
Extra money anyway. Anyway. No, what happens, as they explained it, someone else explained it quite well. What happened was she decided, okay, look, you're not obviously you're not gonna get on job. I can go and get this so and so. So now what they're gonna say, because when I go and sign that paper, they're gonna want to know, do I know the baby's father? Of course I know the baby daddy. It's you. So I'm going to tell them it's you, but what I'm going to do is once they're going to sign, I'm going to sign the paper, and I'm going to give you your, when they take the money out of your child support, I'm just going to give it back to you.
I'll give it back to you, because a lot of times that's what these women, that's what happens. The woman will not even just give it back. The woman will give the man, because the child support nowadays is coming on cards, on like little debit cards.
Just give them the card, right?
Card,
right.
So they're both sharing the TANF, as he called it. I've never even heard of TANF, but they're both sharing the welfare check or the government supplement, and he's getting the child support. So if he has a job, well, clearly he does if she's getting child support, but he's getting the money from his job and his child support back, and
double dipping,
and he's getting a welfare check.
Right.
So like this, pretending as if, the thing is, they want on this particular debate, they want to try to tell this pill man, Destiny, all the so-called secrets that are going on in the Black community. And they're telling supposedly what the women are doing, but they're not telling about all the things that the men
that are in cahoots with them.
Exactly. Let's keep going.
Other in arrears. Now, that once that year is up, that check literally stops and it converts into a child support case. He's never went to court. There are dudes that are in households with women that went and did this because they didn't know any better. And now the guy that is living in the house with the woman owes child support to the woman that's in the same household as him.
I'm just trying to find like any like external thing. I'm just curious.
Yo, the court system is screwed up, bro. When it comes to child support, it is screwed up and it is biased.
Can I just address one of the articles Destiny put in the chat?
I think that for some reason, unfortunately, a lot of these Black men believe that that Black men are the only people that pay child support.
Yeah.
Other races of men pay child support, and as a matter of fact, Black men pay the lowest amount in child support. And I'm gonna pull that up. So when they are talking to this man, who also is going to say that he did go and sign himself up for child support when him and his child's mother separated, they are talking to him as if, because in their minds they really believe that no other race of man pays child support, and that this system was created solely for Black men to
Black men, right? They really believe that. Right, that's part of the package of being a Black man. Once you have a child and it's something you and the mother don't work out, you're automatically going to be put. Not every Black man is put on child support. Not every Black man is forced to be put on child support. There's two types of men on child support: those that understand that, okay, I'm not with the mother anymore, and I'm still, as there's still an obligation, and those who feel that I'm not with my mother, the child's mother anymore, so the child is not my obligation.
Yeah, and I honestly feel like, because I've never gotten child support. I am married to my kid's father, but I've never gotten child support. But instead, there's so many men who are coming out on videos stating that they paid child support, and then the woman went behind their back 10 years later and put them on child support and made them pay rears. I believe that, like, unless you are like married to the mother, or you truly honestly have a good relationship and you co-parent very well and you trust each other, if this is a situation where it's hostile or you guys aren't getting along, just go and put yourself on child support and pay the child support, because that way there is no way 5 years later somebody could say, hey, he wasn't paying for 5 years and request rears of child support, because it's already set in stone. There's a middle person that's saying, hey, they're collecting the money and it's being distributed correctly.
Right.
Not only
All
that,
right.
a lot of these child support amounts are very low. These men are whining about paying $165 in child support per biweekly. Like if I could just give, which I never would, but if I could just give my child to somebody and pay them $500 a month and go on about my business and not have to worry about um food, shelter, their clothing, buying ridiculous things. Me and my child stay in, because my other one is grown, but me and my little one stay in the store constantly. She's always wanting something. She's in instruments, she's in sports, she's in swimming, basketball, she's playing piano. I just paid for her braces. If I could just give my child to somebody and say, hey, take $500 a month, and I'm just gonna do my thing. Like I would not be whining and crying about that.
Right. Right. And you know, I look, I can speak of it because I was on the payee side of the child support situation. You know, I never went to the court and said, no, I'm paying too much. I always just went out and said, you know what, hey, I got to make more money. So go out and get another job, or, you know, subsidize my income. That's just bottom line to it. Never went and never came to a situation where I blamed my children's mother on any situation. It is what it is. You know, I know it takes a lot to, especially I have boys. Hey, boys eat.
Yes. Yes.
They eat. Hey, teenage boys eat.
Yes,
They're
they
constantly
do.
eating. Constantly eating. A loaf of bread lasts no time in a house with boys. No time.
Exactly. Not a
Right.
loaf of bread, not milk,
Right.
not cereal,
Right.
not eggs,
Right.
bacon.
Right. Eggs. You know, the average teenage boy eats what, 4 or 5 eggs in one
At
sitting.
once,
How many eggs come in a dozen? And how many eggs come in a dozen?
12. So if you got 3 boys in one sitting,
That's
your
gone.
whole carton of eggs is gone.
Right. Box of cereal gone. They don't get a bowl. They got they get a mixing bowl.
I've heard a lot of these men, they say, well, the mothers are eligible for, they're eligible for free, the kids are eligible for free food, at like free school lunches. They're eligible for free schooling. Like they name off all these this range of things that the kids are eligible for as a reason why they shouldn't be paying child support. And I'm like, as somebody who is not low income, whose child does not qualify for any of those things. If you are somebody who makes above the poverty level, who doesn't qualify for any of those things, your kid is not getting free lunch. Your kid is not getting free schooling. Your kid is not getting a bus to take them to school. That all of that stuff comes out of your pocket.
Good.
So I don't know if these men just all of them are having kids by women that are in poverty, and they assume that people really don't understand the real cost of things.
Okay. I can tell you for a fact, my mother and father raised 10 of us. So you know that there's always something to be bought here.
Yes.
Always.
Okay, let's keep going. I'm gonna play because it's still like, let me see, like almost 50 minutes of this. I'm gonna play like 15 more minutes, and then I'm gonna get off because I'm a little tired.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I think it's the Chicago Tribune. He was talking about the 60% of the time, the others, if they fight, they win. It mentions here that some of that 60% is a vote for the fathers are most likely to seek custody when the mother is egregiously unfit or dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And then it leads on to, after that, many of the other cases result from the mother's financial inability to support the child.
Wait, either I'm lagging or
Of
he's
course,
lagging. I can't understand.
related to the fathers.
You have to Sway. You have to repeat.
Which part? This last part?
Yeah, you're going in and out, bro.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
you
it says.
how you were wrong, because I just read it too. Yeah, you're wrong, Destiny.
What am I wrong on?
you're wrong for citing this, right? It's saying that the 60% is accounted by, that comes from people that are already married. In contested divorce custody cases, the father wins 60% of the time. We're not talking about cases where they're married.
No. The other comparison thing was uncontested. If 90% of children of divorced single parents are living with their moms,
Okay.
and that's all uncontested because the dad never asked, well, then of course that has nothing to do with the court. So that just goes to show that 90% of those time the children wanted to live with the mom.
But the point that you just made from this Chicago Tribune thing was that women were awarded, or men were awarded custody 60% of the time. Those are from divorce cases. Those are from cases where people have already been married. So you're ruling out and if we're talking about the Black community, you're ruling out a lot of those children that were born out of wedlock, which we know is the majority.
Hold on, even what you're saying is not true. If you read the sentence, it says in contested divorce and parentage custody cases. It's accounting for, that's divorce and parentage cases. So those are two.
Okay. So,
but my problem with this article though is that they'll try. I didn't finish saying it says many of the other cases result from the mother's financial inability to support the child. And then it leads to say, of course, that often is closely related to the father's failure to pay child support. So even when the mother has an inability to support the child, it's still the man to blame. And did you know, Destiny, if a man doesn't pay child support?
How is it? I mean, you are partially to blame if the child isn't being taken care of and neither one of you is able to support the child. I would think like both parents are supposed to be. They're saying that the mother should be blamed if she's not able to completely 100% financially support the kids, even if she isn't getting child support.
Right. You're married. You and your husband married, and you're used to a certain lifestyle. All of a sudden, that income is now gone. The child is used to a certain lifestyle. Now, through hook or crook, the father's no longer in the house, or the mother's no longer in the house. Where are you going to subsidize that income at? Where's it coming from? It's not the father's responsibility anymore to continue to pay for the child.
You know, it just seems like a lot of times when I hear these conversations, sorry,
use that loosely.
When I hear these conversations, it's almost as if it's gotten to the point where some Black people, both men and women, because I hear a lot of them, even I hear women with these same talking points, because they, for some reason, have been brainwashed to believe that men don't have to be responsible for their children. But when I hear a lot of these conversations within the Black community that are on the internet, not in real life, but on the internet, it's as if they literally believe that Black children don't have a father. Like the only parent that is responsible for the child is the mother.
Right. I always say that, black people, we suffer from no daddy issues, and white people suffer from daddy issues.
Exactly. We suffer from abandonment, and they suffer from him being there.
Right.
Okay.
He go to jail, and we're talking about men who can't pay child support, right? So now they can't pay child support because they literally don't have the money most of the time, and then they get sent to jail, and then they don't have the money anymore. Which a lot of these stuff happen, get caught up in the system that we can say is just on the men. They need to step up. But if you get put on child support where you don't even know you are on it, and now you don't want to pay it or you can't pay it, and you end up going to jail for something like this, like that's a little bit of nuance that you won't ever talk about.
Hold on, first, wait, hold on. We can't have like three fucking people bouncing back and forth. I can't respond to anything. Okay, so first, let's read this entire thing. Okay. Some of that 60% is accounted for by the fact that the fathers are most likely to seek custody when the mother is egregiously unfit or dysfunctional. This says some. So that implies less than 50%. Okay. So it's not just when the mother is fucking egregiously unfit or dysfunctional. Okay. When you talk about like going to jail for not paying child support you didn't even know that you owed, I've been through the child support process because me and my kid's mom are separated and I wanted to do everything by the courts. My understanding from my personal experience is that both sides have to be served papers. You can, when you go to a court to file when the father is known. Now, if the father is unknown or something, that might be a different process. But when the father is known and you are seeking a relief from that person, when you go to file those papers, service has to be given to the other member of that complaint. It'll be listed on the paper, like for the county clerk to like file the paperwork. Pretty sure both people to be involved. Now, there might be some like extra cases where that is not the case, I'm Googling like crazy to try to find it. But every single thing that I'm seeing is saying you must serve papers. You have to serve papers. That you're not just going to wake up one day and have a child support order against you. Like, holy fuck, I didn't even go to court for this ever. I've never seen that ever.
Says you have to. It says you have to serve papers, but is that look? There's a difference between service, right? One version of serving papers is delivering it, but another version is you got to sign for it. Okay. What I've noticed is that initial case, they went on with the case without me signing anything. Now, after that, when I had subsequent cases, I had to sign for the service. I had to sign for the paperwork. Okay. So I don't know what jurisdiction you're in, but
So this is the thing. If they had to rely on child support only being enforced if the father would eventually sign to go to court, a lot of times,
it wouldn't be called enforcement.
exactly, because if all I had to do is just not answer the door and say,
Right.
I see a
Here.
processor out there, I'm just not going to answer the door, or somebody else goes to the door and comes and tells me, hey, it's a processor out there, and I just say, hey, I'm just not going to the door, I'm just not going to sign for it. Like,
Yeah.
How can you enforce child support? How can you even get somebody to come to court is if you had to wait for them to sign and say, I'm willing to come to court, or
Right. And if I correct me from my dealings with the child support system, usually if the magistrate drives out to your house and serves the papers to you.
yes. These men are just making this. It's amazing how much they just make these things up in order to excuse the
Right. They either come, right, if they know you have a job, they either serve the papers at your job or they usually serve the papers at your house. You're gonna get those papers served.
You're gonna get them served. They will find you they will follow you and catch you in Walmart.
Right. You're gonna get those papers served. They're gonna get them to you, one way or the other. Yes, they are.
This whole conversation that they keep having, that these men never knew that somebody was coming after them for child support. They never knew child support was going to start being deducted from their garnished from their paychecks until the day that they looked at their checks and hey, it was $200 gone from their check. That's when they knew that they were on child support. No.
Right. Working under the table. That's what a lot of these guys do. They try to avoid by working under the table, so to speak, getting jobs that they don't have to, no one's taking taxes out on them, that they don't ask for their social security number or anything. They don't have to worry about it. They'll sooner or later, child support will catch up with them. So the whole time that they're trying to evade this, all that arrears and stuff is building up. And that's why they end up eventually going to jail, because when they catch up with them, that's when the judge said, okay, for the last 5 years, right? Last 5 years, you hadn't paid anything. What you expect?
Exactly. And I want to go back to the little sway producing, because he said something that was that was eye-opening a little bit.
And I wanted to do everything by the courts. My understanding from my personal experience is that both sides have to be served papers. You can when you go to a court to file where the father is known. Now, if the father is unknown or something, that might be a different process. But when the father is known and you are seeking a relief from that person, when you go to file those papers, service has to be given to the other member of that complaint. It'll be listed on the paper, like for the county clerk to file the paperwork. Pretty sure both people to be involved. Now, there might be some extra cases where that is not the case. I'm Googling like crazy to try to find it, but every single thing that I'm seeing is saying you must serve papers. You have to serve papers. That you're not just going to wake up one day and have a child support order against you. Like, holy fuck, I didn't even go to court for this ever. I've never seen that ever.
It says you have to serve papers, but there's a difference between service, right? Mm-hmm. One version of serving papers is delivering it, but another version is you got to sign for it. Okay. What I've noticed is that initial case, they went on with the case without me signing anything. Now, after that, when I had subsequent cases, I had to sign for the service. I had to sign for the paperwork. Okay. So I don't know what jurisdiction you're in, but in different jurisdictions, they do things differently, right? Everybody knows different jurisdictions have different child support.
I live in Florida now. I know what Florida law is. When I was in Nebraska, I've had people serve me papers before. Service to me has required acknowledgement. Now I could be wrong, and if somebody links me or whatever, I'll be like, okay, it's different here because it might be. I don't know the lie, but I agree with that 100%. But I would be surprised. You're telling me there are states where legal service can be dropping something off in a mailbox, and that's like service? I've served you papers. Because this is why, like in movies and shows and everything, someone will find you at work, be like, hey, here you go, you've been served. Like you have these papers.
Yeah, but if you notice, look, I don't know what's going on. Like I have an issue with it because I feel like service means that I should be signing for something. But every single time that has happened to me, and I'm not the only guy, I've had other guys tell me the same thing, that initial court date, the one where they could actually contest it, they didn't get service. They didn't even know. They didn't even know until after they owed it. And it's crazy because what happens, just like Sway just said, you know, when you don't know or you actually get locked up for it, whatever, you're not really locked up for child support. You're locked up for failing to adhere to a court order, right? That's the loophole because they're not supposed to be locking you up for owing child support. But
in California, you have to do, I mean, like if something happened to you, maybe you missed it, or maybe something happened, or I can't speak to your personal story.
Yeah.
But like in every state I'm looking up, like according to the judicial branch of California, the party who chooses to begin the legal process must notify the other and must do so through the service of papers. In the context of child custody, the parent seeking custody has to serve copies of their filed paperwork to the other parent. Like,
okay,
I don't think you can just like say like, oh, I served them and now they're garnished and now they're getting locked up for child support.
We're dealing with the court system. And when you're dealing with the court system, there's a whole lot of loopholes that are used for numerous purposes. And like Patriarchy said a second ago, it is biased in favor of the women. It just
I don't believe any of this. If you guys want to like link me something, whatever, that's fine. But we can't just keep saying it's biased. It's my story.
Destiny. Destiny. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
The link that you just, so I'm gonna post something right now.
Mm-hmm.
What year did that article come out that you posted from the Chicago Tribune?
From 94.
1994. Okay, I have something right here that is a little bit more recent. So I will say this, right? What I'm saying right now is still 60% awarded to women. When I said 90%, I made a mistake. I was thinking about child support payments, right? Like 90% of child support payments, 90% of alimony goes to women. Sometimes I get that confused. But right here, it's still saying the overwhelming majority, and this is 2018, the overwhelming majority, and I posted two, the overwhelming majority is still going to women. And that's more recent than 1994.
Sure, but now the question is, are these in contested custody battles, or is this just on who's asking for custody, right? Well, I can actually, I'll just click through and I can check. Hold on.
Because I posted one, I think, before too.
See, I came up here because I mean, we can get into the whole.
Now, Angry Man said a little bit ago that the fathers weren't even, the fathers were too scared and unknowledgeable enough to even go to court. And now they're acting as if these fathers are there at court fighting for custody.
You can't have it both ways, can you?
You can on their channel.
On their church, right? For every valid point that they think they have, as soon as somebody squashes it or makes that point invalid, they'll go look at something else. They're literally, as this guy's talking, they're literally trying to go and find things that will to refute what he just said. And so any little thing that they can find is ammo for them.
Yes.
In this case, it does that. Okay, you're trying to make the numbers seem a little bit more favorable to men. The bottom line to it is there would be no such thing as child support at all if men took care of their responsibilities of their children. If at some point in time women did not have to go and seek public assistance to take care of their children, whether it be because they were in the army or whether it be because their dads wasn't anything or from death or something like that, still the children have to be taken care of. Who's supposed to do it? Naturally, we hope the father does. If the father ain't shit and don't take care of it, what are you supposed to do as a mother?
Exactly.
Custody and child support system and all that. But I mean, if we're going to talk about single mothers and absentee fathers, is there no choice behind having a child?
Yeah, there is. There's a choice for men and women. That's why I'm saying I wouldn't just blame women. There's an attack on both sides there, I think. Also, just real quick, so this thing doesn't talk about like in custody fights.
I actually got this
So now it always goes back to when they're losing is, well, she should have just chose not to have the kid.
Yeah.
She just had an abortion.
Right. They talk about moving the goalposts. Oh, you're moving the goalposts. No, y'all move the goalposts because you don't even erect it to make sure nobody can kick the ball through it.
Exactly. And then if certain certain YouTubers say, well, just stop having their kids or just start aborting their kids, then it's you're talking about euthanism and you're a sadist and you're a Klansman. But whenever these conversations happen and they are in the conversation, it always goes back to, well, I know I got you pregnant, but you have the choice to keep it.
Yeah.
You could have had an abortion, but then they go and say Black women are killing all the babies because they're having too many abortions. Are they having too many abortions and killing the babies, or and is it their choice to do so, or is it they should have never kept the baby?
But then again, it's always a number that they always want to place on Black women, that Black women are having the majority of abortions in this country. Well, we know that not to be true because white women are in between the age of 24 to 35. They're responsible for 60% of abortions in this country. Where are they having that? In Planned Parenthood neighborhoods. Where are Planned Parenthood's at? In Black neighborhoods. So that's where white women are going to have their abortions.
Yeah, and they're going to their private doctors because private doctors do not report.
Exactly.
And I'm a nurse, so private doctors do not have to report abortions, or they can just write it off as something else. They can write it off as a miscarriage, or they can say that that the pregnancy wasn't viable. They don't have to say that it was just an abortion.
Right.
Or they just don't have to. They don't have to report it.
Or period. Right.
With the HIPAA laws, they don't have to report it.
Right.
Whereas in the poorer communities where where it may be a Planned Parenthood where they may have gotten a voucher or something to get their abortion or whatever the case may be, I don't know.
Right.
But
there's statistics and facts and figures behind it. There's a paper trail behind it. Whereas in those other neighborhoods, there's no paper trail. It is what it is.
Exactly. Unless Black men want to say that no other men are irresponsible enough to be getting women pregnant that they don't want to have pregnant.
No, we're the only ones. We impregnate everybody.
Census. I just posted the census one because I want to go direct to the primary source. So
yeah, sure. I clicked through this too, but just real quick, there's like 19 pages. I can scroll through and look, but like it's going to take me a sec. But like because I control left in this, I try to find contested, control left contested. And this doesn't look like it's talking about contested custody. This is just talking about where do the children tend to live.
Okay, but it doesn't talk about where it's awarded. Let me click through it myself. Hold on.
So I bring that up because Destiny, I don't know if you are very hip to what goes on in the Black community. I don't expect you to be, but as a common narrative, even before I was born, that I don't need a man and I can do all bad by myself. I can raise a kid by myself. I don't need a man to raise a child. There are videos from earlier the 60s to the 80s to the 90s to the early 2000s that show multiple times Black women saying, I don't need a man in my life to raise these kids.
Yeah, but where did
I'm gonna let that play, but I got something to show in reference to that. Because this is the thing. Women and girls aren't going to say that they don't need a man or don't want a man or that they don't need fathers for their children when they are brought up in communities or in a family structure where they have responsible, loving, protective men and fathers. So the only time that somebody would think, hey, I don't need a man or I don't need a father for these children is if they didn't have a father and they didn't
They only emulated what they saw.
Exactly. They didn't expect that the man would stay there and would run the course anyway. So they just it's almost like it's a coping mechanism. Well, I don't believe he's going to stay anyway. So, I've already made it up in my mind that I'm going to have to take care of these kids by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it's all in. Every Black family is not like this, but it's all in what your upbringing was. So I think a lot of the stuff that these men are talking is just really a lot of deflection.
Right, and personal experience, to say that some of these men probably lived hard lives, or they lived in single parent homes, where a lot of that does have to, has something to do with what they're speaking of now. But again, I have to say that as a man, you learn to understand that not everything is about what you grew up, how you grew up. There's certain things as you get older, you start to say, okay, you make your own decisions. Everybody wants to be grown, but then when it comes to,
I'm sorry.
that's,
Go ahead.
but that's, I didn't have a daddy. I didn't have a mama. That's why I act the way I do.
Yeah, at some point, but this is the thing, they always blame the parent that stayed, as if they resent the parent that stayed for even attempting to raise them. They they want so bad to have had a relationship with the parent that left, that they have, I think, these imaginary visions in their mind of how great that person is and how great their life would have turned out if that person was around, instead of just admitting to themselves that this person just didn't want to be there.
In a lot of cases, that's exactly what it is. I mean, it all, there's always different circumstances why kids didn't grow up in a household. You understand that it's best for the kids that you not be together, because all you do is squabble all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good reason not to be in a house with somebody, to where everything, every winking minute of the day that you're around each other, you were fighting. Of course, the kids don't need to see that, and that's what they grow up seeing, and what they eventually grow up being. And
Exactly.
I can understand moving away from that situation and separating yourself for the good of the children. But a lot of these kids, in a lot of cases, that's not it. It's just that I don't really want to be here no more. So you got the babies, I'm gone.
Yeah, because even if you separate yourself from a situation that is toxic and not good for you or the children, you can still go
Right.
and see your kids.
Right.
A lot of
That doesn't ease the financial burden.
Right, a lot of these men they don't even know who their dads is, or they've never even met their dads, and you see that story, you hear those stories a lot, and for some reason they are upset at the mother, and it's just like, okay, even if you left, because even if you separated from the mother, you can still have a relationship with your children,
Right.
or at least attempt to.
Right.
I'm gonna show I'm gonna show this right quick.
Raise your hand if you're married.
Because these were the teenage girls that everybody likes to tout around as the women who said they didn't need a man. Mind you, these were teenagers. And they're going to tell you, they're going to say something as to why they felt like they didn't need a man or a father for their children.
Raise your hand if you're married. None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. One. The rest of you who don't plan to get married, why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. It's a lot of responsibility, and then you don't want the commitments.
I wouldn't want no man holding me down, because I think I can make it as a single parent.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father.
You heard her say, I didn't have a father.
Right.
Rewind it just a little bit. Because that is where most of the notion and the attitude that they didn't need a man or a father, because they didn't see a man or a father in the home.
Right.
So they, as a coping skill, anybody who doesn't have something already to cope, because I work in psych. I've been a psych nurse for 8 years. In order to cope with what you don't have, you start to say, well, I don't need it.
I don't need it, right. It's not important.
Exactly.
That's no value to me, right? That's no value. So
and if I live in a house and we have rats and roaches, you get accustomed to having those rats and roaches, and you make up in your mind that it's, you got this, you almost ignore that you have rats and roaches, and that you're living in poverty, because you want to cope with the situation that you're in.
yeah, everybody got rats and roaches, don't they?
Right.
You know,
Everybody, that's normal. Everybody in
Right,
the, everybody who
right.
I went to had rats and roaches. So here you go.
Do you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father. My father wasn't in the home, so it really male figures are not substantially important in the family.
Now here comes the male that has children, and his perspective on if he believes that he should be in the house with his kids.
I ain't thinking about holding up for no sex, my man. You know, if a girl, she get having a baby, carrying a baby, hey, that's on her. You know, I'm not gonna stop my pleasures because of another woman.
What about
So he said, he said, look, listen here. If she have a baby, that's on her.
No, man, that's on her, man. I'm not gonna stop my pleasures.
It's stopping my pleasures. I'm out here living it up. I'm thinking about me. It's all about what make me feel good. But and like I said, a lot of these cases are always the worst case scenario. But you see the young girls, they teenagers, and they gonna say that he's 26. The young girl said, "Hey, I didn't have a daddy." So the males are not really, they're not a big deal. We don't need them because they began to learn how to cope without having a man in the house. And then you see the men who also are saying, yeah, if she get pregnant, even though I'm the one,
That's on her.
that's
on her.
I ain't stop doing what I'm doing. I'm still out here.
Right. I'm doing what I'm doing. What she won't do, the next woman will do. I don't worry about that. I ain't gonna stop my group.
Stopping what I'm doing.
birth control? What about condoms?
Girls don't like them things. They don't like them things. They'll tell you to take them things off. They figure that you saying that they filthy or they dirty or something.
It's been a startling change in values.
Ain't nobody. I mean, he said he ain't using no condoms because the girls told him
They don't like them things. They don't like them things.
They think you saying that they nasty if you.
Yeah, they prefer raising a baby for 18 years by themselves. That's a good trade-off.
They prefer that just so you can say that they horrible single mothers and they didn't know how to raise the men the correct way and they turned the neighborhoods.
That's one hell of a trade-off, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Because he out there, he ain't nobody stopping his pleasures. You and the kids can go have y'all have taken the back seat.
They don't love them kids.
Expect you to be, but as a common narrative, even before I was born, that I don't need a man and I can do all that by myself. I can raise a kid by myself. I don't need a man to raise a child.
Shoot, the man said you didn't need a man. He just got on there and said, that's up to you. Them kids is yours.
That's yours.
You stopping my pleasures.
There are videos from earlier the 60s to the 80s to the 90s to the early 2000s that show multiple times Black women saying, I don't need a man in my life to raise these kids.
Yeah, but where did that come from?
Their grandmothers.
And why? Because Black men were getting locked up, because Black men were selling crack, because Black men were killing each other in the streets, right? Yeah, so it's not surprising.
This comes before that.
Yeah,
Black women were saying
all these problems.
Were saying this in the 50s and 60s.
They were saying these in the 60s. This started in the 60s. This came very, very prevalent in the 60s. This started before the whole crack epidemic and everything that the narrative behind Black men. We are always the guinea pigs when anything happens in America. And
I'm about to go back to just to show because the crack, they can always talk about the crack. The crack happened in the 80s and the 60s. Heroin was in America. I'm gonna show that.
It was a drug. Heroin was a drug of choice. LSD, acid, smack. Back in the 70s, those were the drug of choice.
We're here to say that
it was the drug of choice, and I don't know because these men are just too young, or they just don't care. They don't
read. They don't read. They don't do their research. This is not hard to find. It's not like I have this information handy. You know, it is. I learned this through reading. The drug of choice back in the day. Okay, they say they watch movies. If you watch the movie Blow, you know that the drug of choice in the 80s was cocaine.
Yeah, it was, and I'm talking about they saying, well, you know, drugs wasn't a problem in the black community in the 60s, but it was, and I'm
It
going to
was. Yes, it was. When a lot of the servicemen came back from Vietnam, they were strung out.
Yes.
They were dope fiends.
Mrs. Williamson lived 4 doors up the street at 668 Gates Avenue. There, she paid $100 a month for a slightly larger apartment. Again, the city was her landlord. She was the frequent victim of burglars who on one occasion stole a television set, an iron, dishes, an electric knife, and a toaster. She had bought most of these items on time only 3 weeks earlier and had to go on paying for them even though she had lost them forever. Despite the condition of the building, Mrs. Williamson got out of it only when thieves took some pipes that cut off the heat. The city then put the family in the apartment they now occupy. 2 of Mrs. Williamson's grade school children, Gregory, 12, and Kevin, 9, return home in mid-afternoon. She tries to see to it that they study. 2 older children come home later. Mrs. Williamson is fearful about what might happen to her family growing up in a bad neighborhood.
The neighborhood is full of dope addicts. I mean, it's getting to the place that these addicts are stand right in front of abandoned buildings and take the needles and the kids looking at them.
She said this is 1969. She
Right.
said the men was not just the men, but the addicts were doing dope, shooting up heroin right in front of the kids, right in front of the apartment buildings.
Absolutely.
These men said that drugs didn't hit the black community to the 80s.
I don't know what they're thinking about. Maybe that's when when they started picking up newspapers was drugs. I don't know. I can't understand.
Or maybe they talking about their drug of choice. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe they drug of choice didn't hit it today.
Right. You know, these guys they glorify, you know, what's the name of the movie?
Blow.
Blow and
they got New Jack City.
New Jack City, yeah, they glorify that, you know, the kingpins, Nino Brown, you know, they wear the t-shirts with the Nino Brown on it, you know, and this and that. They glorify Free Ray, Ricky Ross and all those. But if you look at it, those are the actual guys that destroyed their own communities. Those were the guys that kept their people, black people hostages, because, you know, they're talking about, well, the government dropped this poison off in our neighborhoods. Okay, if they did, who told you to sell it?
And actually, Destiny is going to bring that up. Like, because they put the drugs in your neighborhood, and I'm not going to say that they didn't, but because they put the drugs in your neighborhoods, you chose to destroy your community with it.
Black women weren't saying
all these.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, go ahead.
All this problem.
Saying this in the 50s and 60s.
They were saying these in the 60s. This started in the 60s. This came very, very prevalent in the 60s. This started before the whole crack epidemic and everything that the narrative behind black men. We are always the guinea pigs when anything happens in America. And breaking up the family homes was clear, shows you the outcomes in the black community. I tell my girlfriend this all the time. As much as y'all preach this strong, independent, I can do bad by myself, look at the black community and see where we're at. As much as y'all think you can, the outcomes you get as to when women rebel against their men in totality and say they can do all bad by themselves, they don't need a man to raise a child, you get a bunch of degenerate children who are either strippers or in jail, or like you try to say, some drug addicts that don't do shit. I mean,
you can point to black women all you want, but like, what are the?
I'm not complaining. I'm just stating reality.
I'm not going to sit here and say there's no responsibility on black women to be more careful about who they open their legs for, right? I agree with that 100%, right? But you can't turn a blind eye to black crime, to black drug dealing. You can't turn a blind eye to black successful people that get big in certain communities and then propagate a culture that is destructive to other black men, right? And those are black men leading those types of cultural norms as well. So
nobody's I don't think anybody
nobody's
over
blameless.
Here,
but my question is, who's being kept alive by the state more? Who's taking more from the state?
I don't know.
Why does the camera? It's like they never truly answer
I can answer that question. Black men, because as you say, that we're the most in jail. So if each bed costs $365 a day, who's living off the state more?
They're the most incarcerated, the most unemployed, and the most undereducated.
So who's really being taken care of by the state then?
They just came out with an article last year saying that black men were costing the country $50 billion annually because of their unemployment rate. So it's just like, do they only surround themselves in echo chambers and listen to people who say exactly what they want to hear and not actually go out into the real world and learn actual data and
What they do,
stats?
and what they do, and those who infiltrate that as they call it, that wall of silence, that get in that you're either a simp, you're either old, you don't know what you're talking about, you're outdated, or you don't know this. But if you're not on the same level with them, you're either one of those things, but you definitely don't have any idea of what you're talking about. That's a definite. And, if you go to the same guy that we're talking about now, Angryman, if you don't subscribe to his channel, you can't speak in.
And it looks like the two gentlemen that he has up there are probably 10 to 20 years younger than him.
Yes.
So you have these middle-aged to older men who are influencing the younger generation very negatively. And instead of trying to help change the younger generation so that they don't make a lot of the same mistakes that the generations prior to them made, they're just teaching them very like they're teaching them to be victims, to have a very victim mindset.
But don't they always say that it's black women that need to break the cycle?
Oh, I didn't hear that one. It's supposed to be us that breaks the cycle.
Right, you're supposed to be here to break the cycle. Y'all have to break the cycle of being single parents. And meanwhile, black men, we can just remain the same, and it will evolve naturally. It's just natural because we're natural leaders, so we don't have to worry about it. It's not black men that need to change. It's black women that need to conform.
This is the thing, though. We're still waiting for an example of something that was great that they're leading in today's time.
Well, that's why they try to. They don't want you to speak about history, because if you bring up history, that'll show them exactly that those men that you say that are archaic, that don't exist, those were actual men. Because if you go back and look at the 60s and the civil rights era, if you look at the pictures, the black and white pictures, most of the people that are out there are black teenagers.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
wait.
hold
Wait. Well, the question is, what costs more, welfare for a black child, or the amount of money we pay every year to incarcerate a black man? I don't know what the answer to that is.
They actually make money off of incarcerating black men. We're not paying. You got to realize we now have privatized prisons. So privatized prisons actually get paid to incarcerate people. They actually get paid so much every day for every single day that you have an inmate in that prison. So it's not us that's the thing where we think, oh, we're paying for these prisons. We're not paying for these prisons.
Sure. Okay, well, first of all, what you just described is we are paying for those prisons, right? The government has to pay other companies to do it because it's not profitable. It might be profitable for that company, but overall it's a drain. That's why the money has to come from the government to do it. But also, private prisons are less than 10% of all the prisoners in the country. Right? So private prison is not like this huge thing. It's like housing everybody. It's like 8% of people are housed in private prisons.
You said 8%?
Yeah, and we're losing money on that.
You got a stat for that?
I got a stat for it. Let me show you. This is just ridiculous. Come on now. I got the stat. Let me show my screen. Because these men all dating.
Hold it. I actually do have a stat for that.
Make these talking points. No proof of what they're saying. So, private prisons incarcerated 99,754 American residents in 2020, representing only 8% of the total state and federal prison population. So only 8% of the total prison population is in a private prison. That means 92%.
92% is okay.
Since 2000, the number of people housed in private prisons has increased by 14%. So before 2000, it increased from whatever it was to by 14% to make it a total of 8%.
8%.
So that means 90, because I hear a lot of black men say they're, they got all these private prisons so that they can make money off of us. When only 8% of state and federal prisons are housing inmates. The other 92% are losing, taxpayers are losing an substantial amount of money to pay for you guys to be in prison.
Well, Black Audacity, don't they say crime pays?
It pays for.
So right. So it has to pay. I mean, you do a crime, you owe a debt to society. So are you just supposed to go to jail and get 3 hots in a cot and not do anything?
That's what they. I guess that's what they believe. That's what they believe. They don't even believe that you should be arrested. They believe it's all a conspiracy against black men.
You got a source for that?
Yep, right here. I think it's almost right at the top. 26 states and federal governments incarcerated 99,754 people in private prisons in 2020, representing 8% of the total state and federal prison population.
Put that in the back chat for me.
Please. I get what you're saying. I just think that you should blame the people blame one group for what it is that they're doing, right? So I don't disagree with you talking about blaming black men for dealing drugs and committing violence. But at the same time, right, to go back to your original statement, you said black women were the backbone of the community, right? You said that they outnumber black men 3 to 1. Right?
In some communities.
Yeah. In some communities, but in general, right? There's a lot more black women than there are black men. How is that backbone doing?
Well, considering women are approaching black men in income, I mean, that's one thing. Black women are out-graduating black men, right? Yeah. I mean, like, it seems like they're trying, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're doing great, because that's not a great position to be in.
To me, the backbone is it bended, but it didn't break.
That I brought up with black.
You said what?
I said the backbone just bended, but it didn't break.
Exactly.
That's all it is. That's all it is. Anything that's under stress, of course, it's going to have sometimes. It is what it is. Even a horse, it needs the pack taken off of it every once in a while.
That part, and I don't know why they believe that you can just put, as like, black women's backs are supposed to sustain, like, have no limit to how much they can actually sustain. Like, it's supposed to be able to bear everything that is put on it, including the black man is thrown on it, the kids are thrown on it, the community is thrown on it. This is the same community that said it took a village to raise a child.
Right. Where's the village?
How the mother is supposed to be that entire village.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna show.
We live in what, as they call it, we live in a patriarchal society which is ran by women. How is that possible?
This is a man again that says his name is the Patriarchal Strikes Back. But yet you're on here saying that is the women's fault for everything.
If you're striking back, that means you lost, right?
From what I can tell, the conversation that they're having on here, they will never win. Not
with these talking points.
And that man, and I want to show again for anybody who came in late, the actual data on the population of the black community. I'm gonna show that and play a couple more minutes of this video and then head out. So the black community, the population, because I hear over and over again about black men being black women being 3 to 1 or 8 to 1. I've even heard of the population in comparison to black men, and it's just simply not true. This is the demographics of the black community. Black males at the age of 0 to 18 are 51% of the black community. Black women give birth to more males than they do female children. Black males between 0 to 18. So if you got kids from 0 to 18 to when they're finishing high school, they will outnumber the males will outnumber the females 51% to 49%. As they get older, of course, that changes from 18 to 34. So all you little Gen Zs and older and millennials, from 18 to 34, the ratio of the population in the Black community is 50% male and 50% female. So anybody under the age of 34 that is out there in the world, male or female, there is 50% males, 50% females in the Black community. Because I'm sick and tired of this whole notion that the men we outnumber the women 5-1. We should have 5 women. That's not the truth. Now, I'm sorry. At age 35 to 64, that's when you start seeing the dip. Primarily, when you dig into that age 35 to 64, primarily starts at around age 40, 45 for the men. You start seeing the dip where the women start outnumbering the men. And that is due to, it says right up under here, the percent of the population who are males declines much quicker for Black males as they get older due to the high mortality rates compared to other to the high mortality rates than males on average. So at around age 35 and up, mainly at 45, you start seeing a dip in the amount of males there are compared to women.
That's right.
And most of the difference is in the age 65 and older. So it's the older community where you see less males than females. So younger people that are in their teens and 20s and 30s, you have the same amount of men as you have women.
Right.
So people that keep saying we outnumbered it. It's just too many women. That's not the truth.
Right, and that's what I was trying to explain to you earlier. When the best time for young males and females to to cohabitate is either during high school or their college years, because that's when you're on the more even playing field, because you have a more variety of people there in front of you. There's as you said, I'm aware of the stats. I always thought that women outnumbered us, but I saw that because there was a natural decline in men as I got older. So to me, that held true. As I got older, there were more women for me to choose from, because through either death or health, or only thing was wrong with you got a bullet hole. The older I got, the less men I started seeing around me. I started seeing more women.
And the thing is, if these men wanted to help Black men to live longer and healthier lives, they would be trying to convince them to settle down and get married or become a family unit earlier in life, because married Black men tend to
They
be
last longer. Right.
and
They last longer. Right. They last longer. They're more healthier. Right. It takes more it takes more away from your physical well-being to be upset all the time. It's literally, it makes you sick to be upset more than it is to be happy, or to have a relationship. Not every day is going to be a bed of roses, of course not. But roses got thorns, and so every once in a while you're gonna get stuck. It is
and
what
then
it
the
is.
thing with the younger Gen Zs, I mean Gen X and the millennial and the Gen Zs, the men are still, trying to, they 45, 50, still trying to, like this guy with the polo hoodie, they still want to be young, they still want to be out in the streets, they sipping lean, they taking drugs, they popping pills, and and they living out in the street life, which is either leading them to hell, or like they used to say back in the day, either hell or jail.
Right.
And
Right.
if
Just
the
go
just
ahead.
the type of lifestyle that they're living is not conducive with someone who generally lives a long and healthy life.
Right. I mean, even since we're talking about even in Angryman's case, I don't wish him no harm. I don't know the man personally. I'm only speaking on his talking points, not him personally as a man. But as I see him, as I've done my research on him, how many cigars does he smoke? There's no ventilation in that room. He has to be doing it right. He drinks alcohol. It's obvious that he's overweight. He's doing more harm than good.
Ooh, you just hit the. You made some points that if somebody hear this, they're not gonna like. This man does smoke a lot of cigars. He does appear to be overweight, and he also appears to be stressed and unhappy.
Right. So all those things lead to a short life. It is what it is. I think about Kevin Samuels, as they say, God rest his soul or whatever. But just think about it. The main things that we know now was the contributor of his death was the main thing that he was complaining about.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And he ended up passing on Cinco de Mayo.
Right. Black women was gonna die alone. Did Kevin Samuels damn near die alone?
And he died with a Latina on Cinco de Mayo.
Right. Okay. Didn't even know what his house numbers was. There was another one that just passed it recently, Sinful to P. Did he die alone?
That man was 38.
Okay.
He was 38 and died of some type of health issue.
Okay.
Some type of medical issues. It's just like y'all don't hear screaming and hollering and stressed out and not even checking on don't even have a primary care provider, not even checking on your health, and literally one blood vessel bursting away from dying. And
that's all it takes. The white blood vessel to pop because you're screaming and you're done.
Y'all up here stressed out and got high blood pressure and don't even know it. Won't even go and get it checked out. If you had a wife, she could probably be paying attention to those symptoms for you, or somebody that loves you.
Right. Something ain't right about you. You don't look right today. Maybe I don't look right. I don't know. Something about your skin. It don't look right today. 20 minutes later, you keel over from, a stroke. But your wife recognized that you didn't look like yourself today.
Exactly. We're going to play about 2 more minutes of this. And
okay. Why are they selling drugs? Why are they killing each other? Why are they doing these things? Because the lot in life they've been given goes back to, fucking slavery. It's fucked. There's a whole bunch of shit.
Disagree.
Okay, you can disagree if you want, but black families don't live in certain...
nothing to do with you, Dylan Dope, but go ahead.
That's fine. You disagree with that, but I'm a liberal SJW blue hair, so this is what I believe, right? That even through fucking Jim Crow and before the Civil Rights Act, where your grandparents were allowed to live, what part of the city you could have...
Were they dealing dope back then?
Shit. What?
Were they dealing dope during
No, they were getting fucked by anybody that could fuck them,
Here's
right?
the thing. Hold on.
Wait, let me just make my point, okay? I'm just saying that I understand why the issues in the black community that exist for men exist. And I'm not going to sit here and say, fuck them for that. But while I'm acknowledging that, I'm also going to acknowledge the issues for black women as well, right? When black women are like, oh, I don't need a baby daddy. I can raise it. I can do this shit on my own. Fuck black men, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's a response to black men. Same way that black men not trusting cops is a response to cops fucking over black men. Black women not trusting black men is going to be in response to black men fucking over black women. I think we have to understand at the end of the day.
Hold on a second. Yeah, with all of that, then you can't have a problem with the red pill then.
Okay, I'm going to end it at that. And he made a point because you can't make excuses and say that the men have all these reasons behind their actions and the things that they're doing, and then say the women who were brought up in under the same conditions have no excuse for what they're doing.
No. Absolutely. I don't, again, I always say this. I don't know anything that the black man, any hardship that the black man has endured, that the black woman didn't endure as well. I understand that. We all understand that there are certain places and things in the United States that's been put in place to hinder us as black men. We are aware of that. That's a given. That's not an argument. You'll never get that argument, but the argument is with what that I have with a lot of black men is you don't want to take agency of this stuff that we've done. Just like the white dude pointed out just now, we don't trust the police because of what the police did to us. So how do you expect a black woman to trust you as a black man from the stuff that we've done to them, or vice versa?
Exactly. So thank you so much, DJ Music, for for coming up. I truly appreciate
It's been a
it.
pleasure. It has been a pleasure. Really
It
has.
has. This was
I hope you continue, and I wish you much success on your YouTube streets endeavors. Be careful; these streets is dangerous out here.
Oh, I know. I had another channel. It got removed.
Wow.
Yeah, I got up to about 1,400 subs, and they removed me. They said that I was violating some stuff, so they removed me. But so then I started this one over in December 9th, on December 9th of, so about a month ago. But
gaining traction already then, so it's obvious what you were doing before. Unfortunately, YouTube as the keeper of this castle over here, so you know all it takes is someone to complain about what you're doing, and poof, you're gone. So
yeah, so thank you so much for coming up. Everybody, please hit the like button before you leave out, and hit the subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate you so much, DJ Music, and I will talk to you all later.
All right. You have a good night now.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.